good evening, everyone. It's 6 p.m. We're going to go ahead and get started with the select board meeting for this evening. So call things to order here. We have quite a full agenda, so we're just going to go right on through this and try to keep the conversation moving here tonight, so that we're not here all night, hopefully. So I'd like to review and approve the minutes of the May 5th, 2022 select board meeting.
I will make a motion to approve the minutes of May 5th, 2022 select board meeting.
I second it.
All right, any discussion? Looks good to me. All those in favor of approving the minutes for May 5th, 2022 signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed? All right. Thank you. I'll put that right here in the order, so we'll take care of that. Any adjustments to the agenda?
Yeah, you need to add the cruiser. Put a paper on your desk.
Oh, the paper's right there.
Yeah, I've got that
It's
here.
not listed, so I think it should.
We'll do that under Constable. We'll take care of that under the Constable
All right.
discussion. Cruiser. Okay, with that, we'll move on. I got Railroad Street discussion with Dave Sanville.
You got it.
I'll give you the floor, Mr. Sanville.
All right, thanks for having me. First of all, it was pretty disgusting. We're gonna rename it NASCAR 500. It's terrible. I've shut my mouth for 3 years. All the residents around me have shut their mouths for 3 years. And I guess I'll be the man to step up to the plate. Getting tired of it. But instead of, turning it into your problem, because I know there's not too much you guys can do about it. So I am in contact with the lucky lady that inherited the bad part of Railroad Street. So I'm talking with her about what we can do about it. So I'll kind of leave that one out. I'll take care of it myself. Now, another thing, the town's property beside my fence that abuts Railroad Street. You're new to town. There was a big fight about all that. The town did get that. I keep my property looking as possibly nice as I can, and I'd appreciate it if the town would too, because it is a town's responsibility. Getting mowed once a month, huge clumps, looks like crap. I mean, if you guys want me to do it, I'll do it, but once a month isn't cutting it. And the other thing, I hear we're getting a new parking ride. We got a grant from the state to put that in.
I don't think.
Or is that going through?
At the,
Yeah, for all season recreational, where the stump dump was, correct?
yeah.
Yes.
And I'm just real curious about that.
So I saw him come in. We're going to be talking. That's next on the agenda.
I just I think it's great, all that, but as far as I'm concerned, I live right at the head of it.
Okay.
And there's a lot of heroin in Groton, and I want to make sure that it's going to be watched or something, okay? There's people down there meeting already, making drug deals and stuff, and I just want to bring that to your attention.
Okay, and have we called the state police when?
You know what, man, I've called, for the last 3 years, I've called the Stadies probably 6 or 7 times.
Okay.
Is this an emergency? Well, no one's dead.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, can we put you on hold? I just called the other night about Railroad Street.
So,
And so I got put on hold 4 or 5 times, and after a while, you just, okay.
which
no.
I get it.
They're not.
I think we gotta keep doing it.
Okay.
The squeaky wheel gets, the grease.
right.
So, just stay with it.
All right. And the other thing I had, next to the last thing, keep it short, are zoning bylaws and planning commission. I worked on it for 6 to 7 years, and I don't think it's going too well.
Okay.
I mean, we have junkyard after junkyard after junkyard.
Okay.
I'm honestly embarrassed when I come into town. I'm embarrassed to say I live here. I know you guys, you know, had a bunch of vehicles towed off on the guy. You know who I'm talking about. And it's filled right back up. It's a disgrace to this town.
That's correct.
And it's a hazard. I know the state, you guys have worked with the state. I appreciate that. But why have the zoning bylaws?
Because we don't have anybody to enforce it.
Well, that's the next one.
So,
I'm moving
you know
on to
what I mean?
it.
So,
Yeah.
so we can have all the stuff we want to have.
Oh, yeah.
Somehow we have to enforce it all, and it becomes a problem, you
Right,
know,
and-
because, so if this guy says, okay, well, you got a bunch of junk in your yard, and this guy says, well, it's all organized, it's not really that junky, you know what I mean? So it's
Well, I
all-
know, I've lived in Charleston, South Carolina with a HOA, and I know it's gone the other way. I got nailed for having my garbage can
I
out
remember that discussion about that.
for
So-
$25, okay? So I know it can go.
And Dan is kind of up to speed on,
So,
Yeah,
but the reason I'm bringing this up too is on Little Italy Road, the nice scenic vista down from me, rats come up the road and come into my yard. You know,
Right.
that's a health issue, and someone's got to address that. Garbage all over the place. I don't care if someone's got a few cars, but there is zoning bylaws
No.
saying you can only have so many. But the rats, that's starting to, let me be politically correct, urinate me off a little.
right,
All right, when we're killing rats at my place because they're coming from down below, now it's a public issue.
okay.
And final, last thing, I've been kind of out of the loop, you know, last few years have been a little rough. I lost my first wife, and finally getting my faculties back together. But what the hell's happened to Jim Downey? Who's made the decision? Has the town voted on not getting rid of Jim?
We didn't get rid of Jim.
Oh, okay, because I'm telling you, I've been on, working on Main Street, you know, off and on quite a bit. I can honestly say, the day before yesterday, just going out to my trailer to get tools, there's cars flying by, 50 miles, 60 miles an hour.
Which
we're in the, I mean, that's
Okay,
something
now-
we just
discussing that, but we
Okay.
didn't get rid of Jim. Jim resigned.
Okay.
Yeah,
No, I mean, because if it's over a damn car, I mean, the state seems to have all kinds of this stimulus money. Why can't you put in for a federal grant, state grant, get the guy a damn car?
Well, so it wasn't quite that simple. So if it was that simple, obviously we just get a car. What happened is Jim pretty much brought it to us that my car's no good and I need a car ASAP to do my job. Well, working with getting a new car and the town's approval and whatever, it's a process.
it is.
And so he wasn't willing to wait to go through the process is kind of how it ended up being. It should have gotten planned ahead of time and made arrangements if that's what we were gonna do.
I
So,
mean, just in the last 2 weeks, guys, down on Railroad Street, right off the Monster.
I'm just saying.
People are getting hauled out of there, guy threatened another guy with a handgun.
But Jim
Well,
doesn't
that-
wanna be involved with that either.
Yeah, so that's part of the conversation that we're having around it. So what I'd like to do is I'd like to address a couple of things that you brought up, so you kind of have an idea of what we're kind of working on. I think to start with, you know, Dan and I have had a couple of conversations. I know the zoning commission spoke at their meeting on Tuesday about, you know, junk and trash ordinances and how with our, or with the updated zoning bylaws that they're working on and how we can enforce some of what's defined in those are. It's not necessarily as simple as someone just enforcing the zoning bylaws. The problem is we don't have an ordinance that lays out how we are to enforce those bylaws, how we are to enforce, what is considered a junkyard, what is considered to be unreasonable trash.
It's defined right now, it's only bylaws, I got a copy of it.
No, without a doubt, and it's more of, who then becomes the judicial body that oversees how that's handled, who is the enforcement officer that makes the judgment call to say, this is junk versus this is not junk, or this is trash.
Just a suggestion, have you asked other towns how they deal with it? 'Cause
Yes.
There's a
So,
lot of towns that are a lot
yeah.
stricter than we are.
Multiple, I mean, and Deb, Deb has previously on the select board, Deb Jurist, worked with VLCT to bring up a draft ordinance that has been kind of on the back burner, I would say, for a while. But I think I've talked to the select board in Bradford and how they're handling junk and trash ordinances. We've got a policy with VLCT that needs to be, I think, reviewed, amended. But I mean, a lot of that comes down to if we do have someone that's the enforcement officer that goes out and says this is junk or this is trash and it needs to be cleaned up, and that person doesn't clean it up, that in the end is still going to end up, if somebody refuses to clean up their mess, that still comes back to the town. Now there are things that we can do, but eventually it's still an expense to the town. And so those are the complexities with that we have to work through.
Well,
So-
I know in other towns, you get fined. You get fined every
But if
day.
you had nothing to take from somebody, okay, for example, on the end of town, correct? That was quite an ordeal, an undertaking. It took state police and, guns
Yeah.
and,
6 months.
yeah, that was a whole undertaking, and look where it's at today.
Yeah.
And
Well, that's what I was just, I was wondering.
Jim's
where
wrote
it's
him
standing.
tickets before, he's got out of them all. So
Well, and I'll tell you,
how-
with that too, I mean, I know with trying to enforce what we put in place, which is a state no parking zone in the right of way
Yeah,
down through there.
I'm familiar with all that.
Yeah, the problem is, and Jim Downing and I spoke about that 6 months ago when we were trying to reinforce that, is, the state police told him not to go there alone, and they don't respond to it anymore. And I mean, frankly, I've heard from multiple towns at this point, Vermont State Police isn't responding to anything beyond an emergency in any town municipal area, because they just don't have the staff to handle the situation. So,
Well, I hate to have 7 years, it's been quite a few years now since we adopted zoning bylaws in this town. And it's been years and years and years, and the stuff just keeps piling up, piling up.
I understand.
So what do you think?
We took and adopted those bylaws. The
Yeah, I worked with
bylaws
you, Dan, on them.
were- The bylaws are not complete. We put in there that you can't have junk, but we didn't put in there how we were going to attack it if you did have. We didn't have any consecutive ways to go other than, okay, we'll fine you, but if you don't pay the fine, guess what? We don't have anything written in the bylaws to further that. Now, Mike
I mean, a lot of
Nahmais,
places,
who's,
you don't pay that bill, they put a lien on your property.
we don't have that ability yet. We're
But certain
working
people
on it.
don't
That's
even
why
own the
ordinance-
Yeah, yeah. And that's,
I mean, because I really am, you guys, I'm a lifelong resident of this town. I know what this town used to be and what it is today, and I'm actually embarrassed. If you're gonna have laws, nothing's being enforced.
So what do you
And I know you
suggest?
guys are
It's
trying.
not-
As a
it's not
taxpayer,
being
I mean-
enforced. It can't be enforced because we don't have.
Well, why
any
have them
other-
then?
so,
Because our zoning bylaws don't
Why have
allow us to. We are changing them now, and they're also working on a separate ordinance, which is a trash
so,
ordinance.
I think, that, so what I'll say about that, I think is, I hear what you're saying. I think what we need to do is find a way for us to move forward.
Keep
so that we
working on
can
this.
get this, and I think.
It's a process.
What I'm hearing is that a junk and trash ordinance that helps to enforce the bylaws is, I think, the next prudent step for us to move forward with it.
I understand where you're coming from, and like I said, I've been on the other side of it too. If you left a trash can out an extra day, I got fined $25. if my fence wasn't painted properly, that was, you know, I've been on the other side where they've been too far.
Yeah.
We gotta kind of find a happy medium here, because, like I said, I'm having rats coming in my fenced yard. Now we're putting up stockade fence so they can't get through.
And again, I understand, and, you know, it's like a lot of things, there's a process we have to
I'm
follow.
not giving you guys hell or nothing, I just
So
want
we'll
to bring
just
it to
keep
your attention.
Working
and,
on it and trying to put something together that can do
You
this.
know,
If we
that's all
can't.
I have to say, you guys. I know you got a pile of other stuff to talk about, and I'll get out of here, but I just wanted you to hear what I had to say.
Okay.
So, and
And
I,
I didn't have to sign a piece of paper saying that I was in 5th grade and I went holler and swear. Thank you.
well, Dave, what I'm gonna do too is, I do have some things that I wanna add to the.
I'd love to talk to you sometime,
Yep,
you know?
and
'Cause I know you got a whole bunch of stuff to
Yep.
go.
so, and I wanna cover a couple of things
Sure.
that you brought up around the constable stuff when we get to that part of the agenda, but Deb, do you have something to
I'd
add?
just say, you know, Dan's made some phone calls about the constable thing. Maybe you can find out how these other towns actually do it. Like, what do their laws
I
look
mean,
like?
because to me,
Because you see it, you have an idea of what it is, but what is it specifically?
we have invested thousands of dollars, this town, in the cruiser, its training, uniforms, radio, you know, all this stuff, and it's just, okay. In the meantime, someone's gonna get killed on Railroad Street or someone on 302.
Again, I'll get to that in a
But
little bit.
anyway, thanks for hearing me out, let you move on, and
Yeah.
all right.
Okay, thank you.
I appreciate you coming, Dave.
Thanks for coming out, Dave.
Thank you. All right, we'll move on to the VOREC Grant discussion. Mike, I'll give you the floor to give us an update.
Sure. Should I what if, like, talk about some of the zoning stuff we're working on too? But we'll go right into VOREC. It's a cheery subject. So the VOREC grant, one thing I wanted to talk about tonight is looking into the grant further. I don't know if you guys were aware that it's a reimbursement program. So it's not the type of thing where we're just gonna get a big check and then we spend out of that. We spend out of our accounts and then get reimbursed by the state. And so it would be ideal for me to have a grant agreement in my hand to show you guys, or a draft or something like that, but the state is super backlogged with drafting these agreements. They've given us permission to start bidding out work and start doing work actually back to April 17th when we were awarded the grant. But the logistics of it to me right now are unclear, and that's why coming in tonight was like, you know, we're probably getting ready to prepare, you know, RFPs and bids, and so I guess I would like to see, well, first like to talk about the reimbursement portion of it and how we would go about doing that. Second would be, you know, do we have a format that we do RFPs on, or a policy? Mike Welch has volunteered to prepare some of these requests for proposals, and that's sort of his bailiwick. He's really excited about that. I was like, all right, great. There are a couple of things in there that, you know, we're going to bid out, and so I just wanted to talk logistics on that. And then the parking thing, a lot of people have expressed concern to me about where this parking area should be. And so with that, I thought at some point we should have a discussion of, you know, where is an ideal place for parking that, you know, isn't going to discourage people from parking to go out and recreate. You know?
So Mike, what I want to say is, I think for working out the process, like the tactical process on how we do reimbursements, I think Lisa's probably the person to talk with. Same thing with putting things out to bids and RFPs. She's done a lot of that work over the last couple of years as the administrative assistant to the select board. So she has done some of that. She would be the one I would suggest. I don't think it needs to be something we have to do tonight in the meeting.
No.
But I would also say, I think what would be good is as you and the team that are working on this are formulating a more concrete, this is what we're going to do, I would suggest bringing that to the select board, because I think for us, we can help drive some of that along through bid processes, getting that done through, you know, where we've got availability and reserve funds, and working out the details, because I don't know, and again, I don't want to speak for Lisa, she's probably the expert here, but I'm assuming we probably can reimburse this into reserve funds if we're using it that way, so.
Yeah.
So
I
there's some
did want
options.
to ask, how often are the reimbursements going to happen? Like, do we have to do the whole project and then get reimbursed, or can it be in sections?
I'm hoping that's negotiable.
So I'd like to know that before
Yeah.
we know how we're gonna get the money.
So maybe we should, I think, because I know we got a lot to talk about, and this is really good, but this is the constructive stuff I want us to be working on as a town for sure.
Yeah.
So I think it might be worth, maybe we set up a separate meeting sometime to get together and figure out, how we can help get this, driven forward and get the logistics together, because,
Yeah.
I think I can't speak for Aaron and Tristan, but I know I am super excited about the fact that we've got this grant, and, if we need to jump through hoops, we gotta jump through hoops, we'll do it. I mean, this is all stuff that's gonna help better the town, and some of the stuff we've already heard tonight that will, make things better.
Yeah.
So-
yeah. No, I totally agree. I mean, I didn't think I was gonna walk out of here with a concrete plan of spending $225,000, but, we do have some goalposts in place, so like some of the dollar amounts we sent to the state for, the regrading of the rail bed, adding material in places. Prices have gone up, so we might be doing a little less, but we'll still be, in good shape. But yeah, it's really just a couple of big chunks, and so that was really the question. So I guess we'll just set up a side meeting, and we meet.
We meet next Thursday. We meet every fourth Thursday.
Yeah, next Thursday night we have an informal. We meet regularly. This will be our second meeting to go over the project and discuss where things are at.
So maybe it makes sense to tie into the end of June one. We should have an agreement, hopefully by then.
I would hope so, but
It keeps moving.
I'm starting to think that some of this should go out to bid, especially the earthwork, just so that it gets onto
Yeah.
contractors' schedules and,
Yeah.
they're booked up, they get booked up real quick.
So yeah, and I would say, just, this kind of ties into some of I think the meeting that we had about the infrastructure project, which is, there may be more to some of that when we're building and excavating and other things, depending on how that impacts rights of way and other stuff. So, again, I mean, happy to help try to, and I'm sure Lisa would be, open to helping get you guys through kind of what the steps are to get the process moving.
So how about if we invite you guys plus Lisa for the fourth Thursday in June meeting?
Okay.
Would that make?
Where do you have your meetings?
At 1076 State Forest Road, right now, our house.
Okay.
But if we do that, I think it's 7 o'clock or something, or 6 o'clock? Yeah, 6:30.
So-
And then if the agreement looks like you're still waiting on it and all that sort of stuff, maybe we move it a little later. I don't know. I get a little hesitant not moving forward on anything without seeing an agreement. So.
Yeah, understood.
I think
So-
we could have bids prepared or RFPs prepared and things like that. And then I've worked on the state side of other agreements with the Agency of Natural Resources, because I work with the Agency of Natural Resources. And usually you can negotiate your payment provisions. So they usually like quarterly reimbursements. They don't want to do monthly. That's a lot of work for them. But I feel like we could definitely get like a quarterly reimbursement back
Okay.
from the state.
So yeah, I think let's do that. Let's plan on
And I would
that
be
way
at
we
that
can kind of
meeting.
help get things to a point where.
I'd be at that meeting.
I guess the question then becomes, if we've got majority of the select board.
That's a problem.
It becomes an open meeting
Yeah.
Right, it does,
concern,
so.
which is fine. I mean, if we need to warn a meeting and have minutes, so
I
be
think
it.
the other thing too would be, it'd be great to have a select board member as part of the kind of core team where we don't have to warn our
And that,
gatherings
yeah,
either, right?
Yeah.
That's separate and independent of doing our sort of powwow strategy
Yep.
with you guys.
yeah.
So why don't I do this? I'll update the invite and invite them for the fourth Thursday of June plus Lisa. And then if somebody does want to stick their hand up and be sort of the select board.
Yeah, I'd be willing to
So-
be part of that, yep.
Yeah, so I think that's great, yeah, so I would say, let's have Tristan be the select board point of contact for that.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
okay.
And you guys are referring to the railroad bed ordinance stuff.
No.
This is
No, but you're-
trailhead on Little Italy. It's not railroads.
Well,
Well-
that is part of the railroad bed ordinance.
Oh, yes.
Well,
And I think you should,
it's resurfacing the railroad bed.
yeah, but I think you're talking about rights of ways and things like that. There's a lot of stuff in the ordinance referring to that. Plus, I think, Gary, you can maybe, I thought there was a parking lot that was part of that plan, that little triangle.
We reference to the left of Dave Sanville's house there as a parking area. I don't ever see it being used as that.
No, but I'm just saying, it's an ordinance, it was passed by the town, so there's a lot of ground rules in there and guidance that you might, you were talking about parking lots.
Yep.
You should
So-
be looking at the ordinance.
So yeah, I think definitely. Would make sure we do the right research and make sure that that's included. And as you're doing this, I think the other thing too is if we need to review and update, the railroad bed ordinance because of
Yeah.
the improvements y'all are making, I think we do that. So
I reviewed it, it's compatible with what we're
Okay.
planning. The only question is of parking is the railbed ordinance cover the entire right of way? Because if you look in the state forest section of it, it's spray painted on each side, so you would assume that the town has that same sort of width that the state
Yeah.
does,
No,
I
I did not assume that.
Okay.
So and I think again, this is all
And
stuff.
you know, there's a map of the railroad bed, there's what do you
Yeah.
call it?
Like a survey?
Survey.
Yeah.
So and
In
again,
the town offices, that
Yeah.
shows
So-
how far out it
Which
goes.
I think we're gonna need to take
Yeah.
a look at the railroad bed, and
Yeah.
I will kind of be part of that
so and
discussion
then again, I think
everything,
a lot of
so-
this is really good, but we've got a full
Yeah.
agenda, so
Yeah. So-
trying to keep the conversation moving a little bit. But yeah, I think it's all good stuff. We just got to focus on how we, and I think Tristan just volunteered to help with that, so that's good. So,
Do you feel like you got direction, Mike?
Oh yeah. I've got a couple other things. One thing did not make the agenda that I sent in earlier.
How big a thing?
I'll give this to you now. You can just review it and you can go over to the next meeting.
The
But
culvert thing? or-
yeah, did you see
We
that?
go over it on the highway.
Okay.
Mike, is
gotcha.
Emily calling in?
She told me to call her, but I can't get my phone to call that.
Well, we have the regular phone.
Oh, we do?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, when we get to that, yeah, we could call her.
Okay.
I emailed her and just said if you guys have questions, we would call. I don't-
Okay.
Just to, I don't
That's
know.
fine, yeah, that's good.
Yeah.
that sounds good.
That's good.
But that works.
Yeah, well, I think we're going to do that under Planning Commission, right?
Or is that tap
That was the culvert.
over?
Oh, yeah.
So did you-
Under highway. Yeah.
Highway.
Okay.
Did you get the packets too?
That email.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, just making sure.
Okay, let's keep things moving here. Go to NEK CUD Broadband Infrastructure Proposal. So I'm gonna turn it over to Mike to get us up to speed.
Yes, so here's an email version. This is a slightly updated version than
Okay.
what you saw 2 weeks ago. The proposal a couple weeks ago sort of evolved from a proposal to an agreement. The changes in there are, from what you would have received 2 weeks ago, is there's a either or on the cost. There's the, if we go alone, the 61.8 or 61.9, and then if we go, if Peachum goes, then the reduction by about $21,000.
Okay.
So that kind of got worked in there. This has got quarterly updates in it. It's got best intent to get going by end of 2023. It's got the email I sent to you guys plus to Lisa and Carrie has how the money will flow, the what and where,
Okay.
when, and how they'll do that is described in the email. It's also described
Yeah,
there are a
paragraph.
couple different sections here. Paragraph 1 and 3 of the agreement,
Yep.
in terms of how money will move. I spoke to Peachum last night after their select board meeting. They've essentially approved it. There's one request they're going to make, and it will be a request that we should make as well, which is to include within the agreement the fact that the appendix that's in this agreement is part of that agreement. Okay, so to officially, I guess legally tie it in.
You gotcha.
Oh,
Make it-
between Peachum and
Well, no, this, just that, this addendum, the maps
appendix.
that are appendix is officially part of the agreement and is
Yeah, okay.
referenced as part, so. That
Yeah.
minor grammatical, structural
Exactly.
change.
Which could be $100,000 in a legal term. Somebody didn't put a zero there. So.
Yes.
Yeah, so basically it's contingent on the appendix being stated as
Okay.
included in the agreement. That's the change they're gonna make, but essentially, the select board is planning to move forward on it. But they'll sign it in 2 weeks at the next select board meeting.
Okay.
So it's definitely looking high probability that our costs will go down to about 41K.
Gotcha.
Versus the 62K. I think I think I mentioned in my email, I'm not an attorney, so I don't know if we want to have our town attorney look at this and make sure that it's in our best interest and protects the
Be
town.
a legal document.
Yep, yeah.
And all that. I don't know if Peacham's doing that or not, but, I mean, we need to do what's right for Groton, so,
So I think that's a good suggestion.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, so,
Contract.
I think Mike, I think this is great. I think definitely it is an agreement, and I think as such should probably be reviewed by the town lawyer, just, I think, to make sure we get that legal review done, check that box so there's no issues. And then, I think, then I think we're looking at this is, I think, meeting what we had asked with timelines, with,
What would happen?
Fee
with
schedule.
specific dates and schedules around payment and all of that stuff, so that's really great.
So would we do anything with approval on going forward with our town attorney taking a look at it? Where are we at?
So I would say, I'll take this, you sent this electronically to us, so I'll send this.
I will send it, I made this minor tweak about the teaching numbers and stuff like
Yeah,
that.
yeah.
I'll send you the absolute latest and greatest.
Gotcha, yeah. And what I'm gonna do is take that and send it to Gavin Reed for a contract review on it. Be good to go there, and I think, so with that, I mean, I'm gonna say, obviously we wanna have that done before we sign it as the agreement, so, but,
Is this time sensitive?
I mean, it's not necessarily time
Well,
sensitive,
the
right?
original,
Like,
for February, it was like, they really wanted to know by the end of May, so that they could start making decisions.
Yep.
In that.
So,
I
I mean, would
think
it,
if we're tracking to do it, I'm not worried about end of May right now.
so, I mean, what I'm thinking is that we, just so that it's official, move, so I'll do that. I'm gonna move that we approve this contingent upon legal review and with the intent to sign the agreement, once that legal review is completed. Does that sound like a good
That
motion?
does. Yep. Let's second that. I guess I would say I would be hesitant to sign it before June 2nd, especially seeing as how we're depending on Peachum. So I'd hate to sign it now and have something in 2 weeks
Yeah.
fall apart in Peachum.
Yeah.
And the budget.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think hopefully Gavin, I think when you reach out to him, it's just a contract review.
Yep.
Hopefully he should be able to have that done in 2 weeks.
Well, I'll email to him and I'll give him a call and just say, hey, we need this back
Yeah,
pretty quick.
I'm not
I don't think there's anything in here that's.
No, I think it's just
Yeah.
probably the best.
But, a lawyer might find a word that's not spelled right to make sure that it's justifying his costs. But,
Yeah, I think it'd be great if you understood the deadline,
Yep.
So, to be honest with you, I think if it went down into mid-June or whatever, we're fine.
okay,
But I part of me hesitates to say that just because if we say mid-June, it'll just fill in, right?
Yeah.
so with that, I've got a motion, I've got a second.
So we,
I'll restate the motion so we know that it's, we're gonna approve the NEK Broadband agreement, pending legal review by our lawyer. And I'd like to call it to a vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed, same sign. Okay. So, next steps, Mike's,
I'll email you the,
okay, perfect.
what you're looking at right there.
And then we'll get it to Gavin and I'll follow up with them with some phone calls and make sure that that gets done quickly, so.
All right, great.
All right.
Thank you.
Thanks, Mike. And again, Mike, thanks for all your hard work on this. You know, this is, I know you've been working on this for, I think the CUD formed 2 years ago, so you've been working on this type of work for us, and I think this is a really big accomplishment, so I appreciate it, Mike.
Yeah, thanks.
Okay, Constable discussion. I'd like to kick the Constable discussion off with a motion to sell the current town cruiser. So I'll just make the motion and we'll discuss it. But I want to move to sell the town cruiser for parts, specifically for parts as is to Darling's Auto for $1,000.
I second that.
All right, discussion. So Darling's Auto reached out to the select, well, actually reached out to, who was it? I think it was
Me.
Lisa.
Yeah.
It was Lisa or Carrie. Who reached out to the office and said that the cruiser's been there for now 3 or 4 months, and that they were willing to take the cruiser off our hands for $1,000 as a parts car.
And they weren't gonna charge us for dismantling it and storing it.
For, so I think we made out pretty good on the deal, but,
Yep.
so,
And Craig's always been good to the town,
Yep.
so that's a good
Yep.
deal. And
absolutely.
Good for
Absolutely.
having
That's
good
that.
products.
Yep. So, I'll open it up, any other discussion about the cruiser sale for parts? All right, I will call to a vote. All those in favor of the town of Groton selling the town constable cruiser for parts only as is to Darling's Auto for $1,000.
Aye.
Signify by saying aye.
There you go.
Okay, let me, that's all good.
Waiting for
You're
that.
stalling on that.
All right, cool. So next on the kind of constable agenda discussion was just some updates on the law enforcement feasibility discussion.
So,
So, Deb.
here's your little hand. Show how official it all is. You've got one.
Which I think, what, next meeting,
Next
Trevor's.
meeting, Trevor Whipple.
and is Tim coming to it now?
So, I spoke with Tim on the phone and.
Which I've talked to Tim too,
Oh, good.
yeah.
He, you know, he thought he might come, but he's got a conflict and blah, blah, blah. And I kind of said, you know, maybe one is enough.
Yep.
I asked him if he would be willing to talk to the town if it ever came to the point where we needed, you guys were gonna have a meeting and it would be good to hear from you know, a Groton citizen who was also a law enforcement officer to talk about things and answer questions, and he said absolutely he would.
Okay.
My conversation with Tim, he did have feedback about the sheriff, about the Caledonia sheriff situation. He said that when you contract for hours, part of it is travel time.
Yes.
And he said that they don't work holidays. You can't tell them where they're gonna work or when they're gonna work.
Well, you can, but they do
We
what they
don't show
want
up.
to do.
Well, yeah, they pretty much do. So, you know, that's basically what he said.
He didn't have any good recommendations from hiring the sheriff's department.
Right.
I contacted 6 different town clerks.
And that's what you have is Danny's,
Every single town clerk said that they do not use Caledonia County.
Right.
They, one of them, teaching, had used them in the past and did not have good luck with them at all.
Right.
So, I mean,
Which, and I had talked to Tim about this in great detail, and it sounds like it's a waste of your money. It would be a waste of our
think it is.
money to come to this town and do any kind of law enforcement work for
yeah,
us.
because if you've got 2 hours, you've got an hour's travel time.
Right, right.
So if you're gonna patrol for an hour and then leave, I
And
mean,
then, you know, we want to give them specific hours when we want patrolled, and they don't come during them, they have their priorities, and then they just kind of come fill in when they feel like it. It's not really doing us any justice or service,
I don't believe so.
as far as I could see either, so,
yeah,
so that's kind of a,
So, well, you spoke to, Trevor Whipple, I think, basically said the same thing. He had comments and thoughts about insurance, if you were to sign a contract, what our insurance liabilities would be. according to the contract and according to VLCT, but, I think we're all getting the same message. Out of my phone call with Tim, it seemed like maybe one of the things we consider doing is hiring someone who is credentialed, maybe is retired,
Yeah,
and would like to pick up a few hours. Was a,
Yeah.
kind of a positive idea that came out of the conversation.
yeah. My only concern with that is, again, I think cost of insurance is there. What does that mean if it's someone like that? I think we need to learn a little bit more about that. I think the other thing too is, that person potentially could be contracted out and not be a Groton resident, which is a good thing, I think, but, because then
That would be
it
hiring somebody.
opens us up to be able to kind of hire into that, but I'm also worried about the general liability to the town for that. I mean, I know we would have liability insurance in place, obviously, but I think it's
Still be a lot cheaper than having our own cruiser
Sure.
and our
You'd
own.
have to have some sort of hold harmless clause
yeah, we would,
in order
yeah.
to protect the town, that if, in
And-
fact, this individual did something outside the scope of what you contracted him to do.
And how would we find somebody that would be interested in a position like that and,
I think you put an ad in the paper.
It would be, we'd have to put it out.
You put
Ad,
it out,
bid,
then we'd
whatever.
be like trying to hire somebody and having to screen them and, right? I mean, it turns into quite
It
a,
would be
There's
like
quite
hiring
a
an
process.
assessor or whatever, yeah, no. I mean, really.
Now,
seems
what if
like
we
it's
just-
a rock and a hard place kind of situation, guys.
right, but
Well,
what if we just had a local resident that wanted to be a constable per se with no law enforcement
You can do that now.
abilities?
Yes.
You can appoint that.
We can do that now.
So-
A civilian constable.
Wouldn't that be something that would kind of,
But it doesn't really help with the law enforcement question, you know what I mean? It
Well,
helps with we
it
have a
means-
constable to do the roles and responsibilities required by a civilian constable.
They can manage animals,
Yeah.
they can direct traffic, I think, they can
Serve-
throw
serve
people out.
papers
They
for
can
the
send
serve-
papers to
right.
the town?
They cannot be carrying if they're doing that.
Yeah.
Okay.
So you have.
Now, how do we, by Vermont state law, you can carry concealed or unconcealed by
Yes.
state law, so I'm just trying to think about this for a
You
second.
can,
that
but if
we-
it's a
we would have
condition
to-
Of the
employment,
town,
of employment.
Yeah. Well,
If you
it's,
have an employment contract that says you cannot carry,
so
it would be
as
part
a
of the-
resident, and I would, so
You
just real quick, if I was signing up for this job and I didn't know what I was getting into, and I wanted to protect myself, how would I then?
Well, that's a problem.
So,
So that's the law.
let's throw that out
that's
there.
the beauty of a constable without police powers. You're not gonna put yourself in that position.
Okay,
Yeah, you're not gonna go into a domestic violence situation. You're not gonna get called in to a railroad street where the state police are
okay,
arresting
okay,
someone.
okay,
Yeah,
I mean, your position is very limited,
right?
and it's
To-
dictated by the
yeah,
select
to,
board.
to administrative tasks only.
We would need very clear policies written up.
You've gotta have a policy and procedure that can be followed.
Correct,
Yeah.
correct.
Because
But it would also be, I mean, it really, as Dan, as you indicated, it needs to be laid out as part of the appointment, that's conditions upon appointment, that these, when you are in your official capacity as the civilian constable of the town of Groton, these are the tasks that you are allowed to do, these are the tasks, and these are the things that are strictly prohibited, you know what I
Right,
mean?
these are the conditions of employment.
Okay,
Yeah,
I think
one
we
more
have to
thing,
do
why
this.
would anybody want the job?
Well,
No,
I
I'm
mean,
just,
I can't,
like,
I don't,
does it
I don't
pay,
know, so I don't
does
know.
it, we
Some of
have to
these-
figure
some
out
of these
pay, you know,
towns-
why would anybody wanna do it?
Some
And I think it would be-
towns appoint
we
people,
need to
some of
determine
these
what
towns
the-
elect them.
And some do stipends, and some do hourly, and some do nothing.
or a
At least,
combination
and
of.
Trevor Whipple will be here at the next meeting, and he can answer those questions better than I can for sure.
We'll get there. So, I mean, I think that's the kind of complexities of it. It's the law enforcement piece that is, I think, honestly, it's not
190 hours.
just our problem, but, yes, ma'am.
name's Victoria Miller. I live on 302, also known as the new racetrack. You gotta do something about the speed. And you're talking about the constable, you're talking about law enforcement. But since we do not have a constable that has a car on 302 now, and we do
Hold
not
on
have
a
a
second,
physical
whereabouts
presence.
on 302 do you live?
I live right next to the post office, the old Merchants Bank.
Okay, okay.
And I'm telling you, since we do not have a constable that is now, we have a presence in town, 302 has become a racetrack. It is absolutely unbelievable. Limb law trucks are going through 65, 70 miles an hour. I was at the town office, and they've seen it, I've seen it, my neighbors have seen it. We have a lot of children that are further down the road from me. I don't have any young children. But I think it's a huge concern. School is not out of session yet.
Wait a second. We don't have trucks going through at 65, 70 miles an hour, so let's get that cleared up.
Well, I'll say I've seen it. I mean,
If you would like to
I
come and sit in
just
my
down here.
driveway.
Listen, I'm just telling you, yeah, they're speeding, okay? But let's not get carried away with this whole thing, okay?
So, what I want to say too is, and I apologize.
Can I just finish what I'm saying?
Yeah, go ahead, absolutely.
Before you admonish me, okay? I used to be on planning and zoning in my other town, so I do have an idea of how this works. I want to bring it to your attention that it's a huge concern. We have a speeding problem since we do not have a constable presence in our town. I don't want to see a child get hit because we don't have some type of presence in town now. That was a huge deterrent, and we don't have that anymore. School's not out of session. We have kids on bikes, we have kids on scooters, we have a lot of activity, right? People go to the post office back and forth all the time. We do have a huge speeding problem. I've been here over 3 years, and this is the first year that I have seen people really with an increased amount of speed.
So, I've lived just down the road here on the other side of town, on 302. I've got 2 young kids. I am absolutely as much concerned about this as you are. But what I'll tell you is, we are one of many towns in the state of Vermont, many towns in this country that have this problem. And it's not just speeding, it's drugs, it's domestic abuse. I mean, somebody sent me a video that has circulated on social media just down the road here where there's been drug problems out in the open, middle of the day, domestic violence incident. Our constable couldn't respond to that. Our constable can't respond to these, when he was a law enforcement officer, couldn't respond to these things. We now have a state that is telling towns and has been made absolutely clear that they're not going to respond to this stuff.
I know, there's no staffing.
So, what I would say is, we got to start talking more to not just the select board. We're going to do what we can do. And we're going to try to do everything in our power, because I have a vested interest in getting people to slow down in this town too. I'll tell you, I had the speed limit changed out in front of my house as a member of the select board to try to reduce the speed in this town. And I think it has had some effect, but it has had not enough effect. But we need to look at other opportunities. It's not just a constable. I don't know how many people have driven through East Barry. I know it seems like it's a pain in the butt having to drive through a roundabout. That can slow the speed down in town. But that's an infrastructure investment that we have to spend town money on to do.
I think one of the things we should work on is possibly putting up the things in town where the speed would help.
Well, what I would
Major.
like to make.
And I can do
is
one
you know
thing.
those things where you do have it, which tells you what your speed is?
Which is what we're
Yeah,
actually,
can we hire somebody, or can we rent one of those so people have an
we
idea? how fast
actually
they're
have
going?
those.
Well, we have, it's as simple as it sounds to just put a sign up and put it out there.
Might help, though.
It will, but what I'm saying is, as simple as it sounds to just do that, it's not just a simple process.
Oh, I know.
If I submit a request and I can pull some info up and try to get that done this weekend to get it off to the right people, it's gonna require one of us to go to the State Transportation Committee meeting whenever they decide to have their meeting. I don't know what their schedule is, but we have to get it approved through the state to do it, because 302 is a US highway and it's a state highway. And
So do we have one of those here in town?
we have
Do we
two.
own one?
But
Not a trailer mounted,
to
it's-
be on 302 necessarily, so that's where the whole extra
We've
thing.
got one on,
But as a selectman, I can make a phone call tomorrow, since you mentioned Limlaw Trucking that are doing 65 to 70 miles an
No,
hour.
they're fast.
But I own a trucking company, okay? So I just want to explain myself, okay? So I know Bruce very well, and I've driven truck most of my life. So I will let him know that his trucks are speeding through town, okay? I will deal with that tomorrow. I will call the state police tomorrow, and I will make a thing that we need more presence here during the day. And I can get somebody to patrol here. It's funny that I see a state police officer quite regularly around here. So things are patrolling. When you say there's no patrol
No, I
here,
did not say that, it's open works, I did not say there was no patrolling. What I said.
Is that since
I
Jim-
said, since we do not have the constable's car as a presence in the village, I have seen an increase in speeding. I never said we didn't have state police, because I saw the state police come in a couple of days ago, and he was booking after somebody who went and followed down Powder Spring Road. Now, whether they pulled him over or not, I don't know. But what I'm saying is, since we do not have that presence, I have seen an increase in speeding.
Okay. Well,
And I have a huge concern, kids are not out of school yet, and I don't want to see a child get injured.
And I think.
Nobody does.
I think what we're saying is, you know, we hear you, and we completely understand. It's a problem, and we're as Deb just said, we're between a rock and a hard place here.
I understand that.
You know, we are looking at, you know, the reason why we're talking about the feasibility of law enforcement in town, and we're looking at potentially contracting with Caledonia Sheriff's Department to have them patrol, which is not looking great, is we're trying to figure out a solution to this. And honestly, and it kind of comes back to, you know, why we don't have a cruiser is it's not something we can just overnight figure out. I mean, this is a deeply complex
Process.
issue, and
which we're working on.
yeah. And so, I think that's where I say we need to get a little bit more beyond problem solving through one potential source for reducing speed. And I know that we just paved 302, and I know this stuff, but maybe we need to look at putting a roundabout in the middle of town, because maybe that'll slow people down. Because I mean, that has been done in Eastbury. Danville did some speed abatement stuff that was not law enforcement related, as options that we can look at on how we can get, you know, how we can get folks to slow down. I mean, it's.
I've lived in this town 64 years, and of those 64 years, there's always been speeding.
There's always been speeding in every town.
There you go.
Mr. Page, did you have something to say?
Maybe rather than sending the car to Darwin, we could just move it around town and park it here and there.
If you want to park in my driveway, go right ahead.
I know.
All the way down to my house.
It's not a bad idea. Or maybe it is, but you
Yeah.
already voted.
yeah.
So, I mean, I appreciate you coming and
Well, the
expressing your
biggest thing is, I
concerns.
just don't know if you're aware of the fact that there is a real problem with the speeding. And I really think that the paving did contribute to that.
Of course it did. Yeah, of course it did.
So-
Because I think people think it's more the interstate, or, yeah, they think they're outside of town, and so they don't slow down when they go to the two approaches to town.
And so what I would recommend to you too, and he's very receptive, because the last time he was in the town of Groton, he remembers why he was in the town of Groton. But the Secretary of Transportation for the state of Vermont, I would send him an email or give his office a call and complain, because what they did for 302 is the new state policy for paving roads. They call it a road diet, right? Am I right?
Called the what, excuse me, a road what?
It's called the road diet, DIET.
Okay.
So they shrunk the roads down, shrunk the lanes down, and tried to shrink the shoulders to narrow the roads to make people slow down. And I'm right with you. It didn't help anything. It made it worse.
It
So
absolutely is much worse.
Well, not having Jim there, when Jim was there,
Yeah.
is, you know.
well, that's I think the other thing is
just the idea that Jim was here probably fended off,
yep.
you know, a certain amount.
Well, a lot of
What
people
about
out of
the
state, you know,
speeding?
or even people just coming through town that are not familiar, they see the car, the perception was, as law enforcement, I have to slow down. And they did. And now we don't have that presence, and it's made a big difference.
Okay, we're working on it.
Yeah, I
It's
appreciate
not a
it.
criticism, I'm just here just to express my concerns.
Okay.
Because I don't want to see a child get injured.
And, I mean,
Like I said, I'll make a few phone calls tomorrow and I can do what I can do as a selectman, so.
No,
I can
appreciate
change
very
that.
much.
yeah. And I think it's, we live in a sad time right now. It really is a sad time that, towns have to spend this much time to try to figure out how to keep people safe. And, we aren't getting very much support. I mean, I hate to say it, we're just,
Well, Tim said that he needs 2 officers up there.
Yeah.
They don't.
Can't get
It's like everything. There's,
Everybody's stretched thin.
everybody's stretched thin. It's possible that there are people who have retired. I mean, I think part of the job problem, the shortage of workers, is that older people like my age and, whatever.
I retire.
We are done.
Yeah.
And,
There's
there
nobody to
may be
replace.
some people out there. Well.
Just saying.
Okay.
all right, well,
No.
Okay, the other thing, I'd like to get permission. Trevor did seem to have some, he didn't understand how the Judicial Bureau would execute speeding violation tickets on the railroad bed through the ordinance. And I did contact Gavin about it, and he answered me pretty quickly, I want to mention. And I just wanted to ask if I could have those 2 talk to each other. I mean, that's gonna be a town expense, but that, is one place where.
And this is for cars or for everything?
The railroad bed ordinance was written, the railroad bed is not a road, it's not a trail, it's just town property. And so.
I remember having this discussion, but I don't.
It's in the ordinance if you wanna read it, I mean, it is property, so the rules that are on, or that govern roads and stuff, don't govern the railroad bed. That's why we wrote the ordinance and had it approved while I was on select board, and Gavin Reed was really intimately involved in that to make sure that, we did it all right. And one of the things we did was, we put in the speed limits, we put in the penalties, and we put it in that a town constable can execute on the railroad bed the speed limits.
Right.
So, Trevor Whipple seems to have a question about how that would be adjudicated through the Judicial Bureau, which Gavin Reed said he didn't understand, but it is a new ordinance, it hasn't been tested, it's appropriate to look at it, review it, and possibly change it. If you give me permission, I'll put the 2 of them together and,
I would say go for it.
Okay,
I would say yes.
okay. So, I think I had given you all the information that I got, and Dan did all this other legwork, so.
Been good, and we'll look forward to talking to Trevor at the
It'll be
next
at the
meeting,
next meeting.
and we'll
Second
see
And
how
Tim
things
Page
look.
is in the wings and will, come in and help pave the way with the public, whatever. What about the idea of a speeding radar that gives tickets?
Yeah, it gets- they get
I don't
tricky.
think we're
And
in
that's-
that time yet.
Yeah, there are states that have tried that, there are states that do it, but there's a question of things like entrapment.
Vermont,
I
And
think it's a state thing.
Yeah.
It's a
Yeah, 'cause
state to
Vermont,
state thing.
I don't know
Oh.
any states,
Some-
any
The
town in
state of
Vermont.
Vermont does
Yeah,
not do
Florida,
it
I know,
because
does,
of the
but-
fact that it's too hard to tell exactly who's driving. You can get the license plate number, and that's what most of these things go on.
Right.
But if that person says, well, I wasn't driving that day,
What about, so how much, so to put those things up we have, what do you,
It's a couple $100. I mean, it's just moving them, but it's.
but
it
do we
has-
have to have a permit,
Yeah.
special
Yes.
permit from the town? I mean, from the state,
Yeah, from
right?
state
it's on the state
transportation.
road.
And I think
So I think
actually
that
the
would
state
probably
has
be-
to place them for us. It's not, because it's on the highway, I think from my discussions about the speed limit signs, I think that they actually have to either identify where we can put them, or they have to in place the posts for us to then.
I think
fix them
honestly,
too.
that's probably the best thing we could do at this point. And there's a lot of towns we go into that have those and they flash blue and they whatever, and I think that's probably one of the best, better things that we could do, yeah, at this point.
Coincidentally, many of these towns I spoke to have those signs.
Yeah, so I think it's a great idea. I think that
How,
would be.
how much of those signs, I mean, just thinking, how much are they, do you
I can't
remember how much they were to
remember.
buy?
Remember we
Right
had the
around
return?
5,000.
Yeah, that's
For
what I was
both?
gonna say too.
About 5,000
each.
each?
Each.
And we
Yeah.
own them already?
Well, we do, but my thought was if they weren't an
Where are
extraordinary
the ones that we
expense.
have now?
Kind of
One
friendly,
brand,
minor.
one
Road or minor deal.
We used to move them around.
Well, Jim used to
really.
be in charge of moving them and setting
No,
them
they've
up.
never moved.
No, they never.
They moved
They-
from,
One time it was down by the bridge on Powder
Right.
Spring, and then.
Oh, that's why, that's where it was.
Yeah, that was the only move.
That's right, okay.
So
So,
I'll research that.
but it seems like they'd be more beneficial
Well,
on,
we were gonna, but then we found out the state, you had to go through all the different work to put them on a state highway.
so let's
They could
start.
go on, we can move them on any town road anytime we
Well,
want.
I just-
It's just the state.
Can you put them in people's driveways?
no.
No, it has to
Because
be
it has
on
to
the
be-
speed limit
It
sign
has to be
as
within the
well.
right of way and it has to have the speed limit.
So
and
let's
I'll-
start talking about
I've got,
how
I think,
what the process and
Oh,
how
I've
we
got
could
that.
do that, right?
I'll pull up some of my old emails from when I was looking at that stuff
I think
again.
you got half the work done. I mean, you're halfway there on
And I
some
think
of
part of it was,
Study.
part of it was we had the study to move the speed, to change the speed limits. Part of that conversation was the radar signs. But, my recollection of the transportation committee meeting, they decided to do the speed limit changes and they were gonna review those later because of the paving, from what I remember. But
Yeah, so let's pick
either
that
here
up.
or there now,
Let's pick it up and
that's in, I'll see what I can do.
we'll get, move forward with that.
Excellent.
I mean, the other thing too, and I know this is infrastructure, would be just to put at each entrance, speed bumps.
Jesus.
But again, I think it's like
That's
anything,
state-
it's.
But that's
it's
state
a
highway,
it's
still,
gotta.
we're not gonna be able to
It's-
do that.
It's the same basic process, it has to funnel through, it has to funnel through District 9 highway to the state engineers who have to look at it. They have to make a recommendation to the Department of
Okay.
Transportation.
Yeah, it sounds like there's lots of hoops.
And you know how that would go, they'll slow down for the bump, and as soon as they get over it, they're gonna gas on it for all
Maybe
the
maybe if we're unfortunate enough to have an accident, we can use that as a catalyst.
Yeah. What I think it is we need to show that there is a risk of accident.
We just had one
I
last
mean,
week.
it sounds to me like the hurdles are high right
Sure,
now.
down with Groton Tire and all.
Oh, yeah, I saw that this morning.
Yeah. So,
How about,
Jenny
how about the
back.
fact that the library is on one side of 302 and the park is on the other side with the playground?
Yep.
Is that enough to add to, you know,
Maybe, yeah,
messaging to the state transportation?
I mean, I think the other thing would
Possibly.
be adding to that is putting, starting to add more to the thought process, which is adding a crosswalk, an actual crosswalk there with blinking signs that.
Remember, they didn't approve
They
that.
won't
didn't
approve
try it
that.
last
We
time.
tried that.
Yeah.
I don't think they'll approve that.
But then we'd have to hire kids to actually be, so we can get pictures.
You say that, but Danville has one across
From one to the
Route
other.
2.
Danville also has
They did a
state
study and they
representatives
said
in
there
their
wasn't enough
staff.
traffic, but I would say now.
He told us
So,
the damn
I
devil.
Maybe it's
I
less.
can make, I can do that.
Last time we had an actual study of how many cars go down 302.
Right before the
About
construction.
18 months
Yeah.
ago, it was like 18 months ago, it was like October, November of 2020. Which, I'd have to look, I don't remember off the, it was not anything like it is in the summer season when we have the seasonal traffic. And that was actually part of the argument that I made to the transportation committee was, this actually is, this is not really a good picture of what traffic looks like in the town of Groton because of the season to which they did it. So they,
What's the height of the pandemic?
Which if that was done, that was during the pandemic
That's what I was
anyways, and everybody was
thinking too,
home anyway.
Yeah.
yeah, true.
On the,
So anyways, we're working on it, how's that? That would,
on the speed signs, do they collect it? Do they record?
No, no, they.
so we're gonna,
I think it was just
Work on
a
it.
general observation. So somebody came here somewhere along 302, parked their car and observed for like
So
an
we can't
hour.
go to the state and say 80% of the people are 12 miles over the speed limit when they enter town.
Their person has to come and do that. And I think they did it with the state police. So-
Can we request that we have one of those, they put the wire across that doesn't count, doesn't automatic counter in the summertime to prove to them what the numbers that we've got, just for a place to start.
I can bring that to them.
Make all sorts of requests.
Yeah, they do.
I think the state really does decide how they want to survey the speed and numbers and quantities. The way it was laid out to me is and that's what happened. They took it, they subcontracted it out to VSP. They had somebody come down here, and I think it was like 3 to 5 and observe speed limits, and then they made a calculation based on that to say, okay, if it was this 2 hours, this is what it could look like for the day, for a week, for, you know, kind of the year time frame. It was, the calculation was.
But Mike, were you thinking about just recording?
We gotta move on, yeah.
If you might not be able to give somebody a ticket, but if you knew what the license plate was and what the speed was, I wonder what it would feel like to get a personal letter from the select board in Groton saying, well, we can't give you a ticket,
They're
but
killing me.
we want you.
So we gotta move on with this. Okay, we're gonna.
Kids, put pictures on it.
So our plan was to build data, and I think the thing is to build a historical track record that we're trying to correct this. Even if it's a paper trail right now, so that if an accident does happen, and we've requested 3 times, okay, and now we're losing our kids.
Yeah.
Okay.
See, that's why I'm here tonight.
So, you know,
we want something to change, okay? And a Vermont Digger article and a TV crew showing up, and maybe the state reconsiders things, because we are an open market.
Absolutely, absolutely, I agree.
So, and yeah, I think you're right. I think it's bringing this stuff back. And again, I'm going to try to do what I can do to get the speed limit signs, you know, the radar enforcement signs moved, and you know, bring this stuff back to, you know, other requests that we've tried in the past, and see if it's something we can do. And, you know, if it takes me getting a hold of the Secretary of Transportation to come down here and, you know, sit on my driveway for 3 hours, you know, morning, evening, any time of the day to show it.
And I think that's
what
good
we do.
use of your time. It's gonna seem like it's a waste of time,
Yeah.
because we're not probably gonna make progress. But at some point, we may be able to leverage that to
Yeah.
actually have change.
So, and you're right. So, I mean, and I think that's what we can do when it comes to speeding. And I think we've got a lot more research and a lot more information that we need to try to pull together around law enforcement. But you know, we'll you know, we're gonna commit to make it. I mean,
Yeah.
Tristan said he's gonna make some phone calls. I'll make some phone calls and get some stuff going. And Mike.
Yeah, real quickly, so I work for the state of Vermont. I'll tell you that when you're a state worker and a legislator calls you and tells you about some complaint about something in your district, in your town, one of your spills, one of my sites, you know, that I start moving. Like, I start making things happen. So if you call your legislator, or whoever our congressperson is, although they're out of session now, so they may not answer, but your senator, these people will call the appropriate people and try and get their problem resolved.
I did that last winter because the snowplow went through and they had the wing, and it went right down the side of my house.
Yep.
And I emailed them, and I could go out in my yard, and within 2 days, the state trucks would slow way down when they would go and hit Tim's. On either side of the road, they slowed right down because they knew they hit the side of my house with the slop.
Yeah, so my suggestion is when you have a state issue, like this is a state issue, it's a state road through here, we have limited
Recommendation, I'll be
control.
on that tomorrow.
Yeah, we should go to our legislature, and then you can go to the secretary, you can email the secretary too, because I get emails from my secretary, and I start whatever I need to do to resolve whatever the issue is.
It's an excellent recommendation, Mike. You're 100% accurate. It's exactly where you should be. And your representative that you should start with is the one who's up for re-election next.
Joe.
Because they're the ones that are going to jump.
It's Joe Parsons.
Joe Parsons is, yeah.
Yes, ma'am.
I just wanted to say I appreciate hearing the discussion about the reduction of the speed limit on 302. My husband and I live also on 302, but at the other end of town. And that's something that we've noticed as well. And we're looking into how to address at the state level. So I'm happy to hear it discussed here, and we're happy to support that.
Yeah.
Thank you.
It's,
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for your input. I mean, it's, even with Jim here, it was a problem. I mean, that's why, you know, I did what I could do to at least get the speed limit changed. I mean, that made sense. But I think doing what we can do, you know, at this point is, all of us doing our part, but, calling state representatives, filing complaints. I mean, that, like Tristan said, the squeaky wheel sometimes gets the grease, and, maybe that'll help see some additional, heck, maybe we reach out to DOT and the Vermont DOT and say, hey, maybe you should open up a truck inspection site down here through town. And
Let's not get too. And that's perfectly fine.
Tristan, all your trucks
You're gonna pass.
What are you
Anything
worried about?
to worry about.
You got nothing to worry about. You just you're worried about all the extra work that's gonna come your way when people start getting shut down.
So we do have to move on. I appreciate the discussion. I appreciate everybody's input and insight, and we're committed to try to figure out what we can do to get this to make improvements, whatever we can do. So moving on to department updates, infrastructure project. Just kind of an update from the May 11th meeting. We did meet with, and I can't remember, Eric, and he was from USDA, who's administering the money from the Leahy Grant funds. We talked through the project. We talked through kind of where we are with the project, and he gave us a really great, I think, input on next steps, timelines, what the expectations are, what his expectations are with regards to that stuff. And Nate was there. Nate Sickard was there to help with kind of his piece, and has already made some steps forward with some of the pieces that he needs to work on, including I think one of the big pieces was some of the right-of-way work that we need to get done, looking at the potential for and submitting permits for archaeological surveying along specifically along Mill Street and down to the river. And hopefully that doesn't turn into a full-on survey, and we can kind of get a pass. But I think the big thing was we I think are all in agreement that we still have a lot of due diligence that needs to be done to hopefully be able to put this out and get everything lined up to put this out to bid in the fall for next year's construction season to start the work. I'm not sure if it's going to complete next summer, but we can at least get it started. I think the big thing from Eric's standpoint with the USDA is that we need to continue along the process, be able to provide regular updates and show that we're working towards construction. I think what he's saying is this is money that we're not the only people that have submitted grants for. We were fortunate enough to get it, but we need to be able to show progress towards completion. So, and then
I just had a couple more things to add, that once the construction begins, that we will be having monthly meetings with them, and all the reporting will begin, and that the engineer is going to work with us completing another application to the USDA at the end of summer. In that, it's, Eric was impressed with the whole outside. We did the whole walk around, and he was impressed. A couple things that he had said that needed to get into place and that I've completed with Dan. We needed to get a permit, and Dan, we got the permit to expand the parking lot out back. So that is something that Nate said we had to get done. So that's done. Okay. And then Eric emailed me that we do not need to follow the Davis-Bacon process. Okay, which was the whole thing about the state or federal wages. So we do not need to follow that. So he's like, yay, excitement. Nate, good. I forwarded it to Nate. Thought I forwarded it to you too, but said that that's great that we don't have to follow that, because that's just a whole other leg of work to do. Yeah. And update on Mill Street, Sean from Gavin Reed came up and reviewed the plans that we have in the Mill Street, and got the addresses of all the people, the names of all the people that are on Mill Street, and he's trying to work on it and maybe have it done for the June 2nd meeting.
Okay.
Okay. So I think that was great, 3 things that got achieved.
Yeah, I'd point out also Eric from the USDA was also kind of excited about the project because Groton's being proactive with their stormwater. So nobody was forcing their hands. We were proactively trying to, so he was kind of excited about the project. Looks good.
And one of the first.
And one of
I think he was saying we were a rarity for this project with these funds.
And the other good thing too was Nate Sickard, the project engineer, actually got to pick out who he gets to work with out of Eric's office. So, well, is this going to be out of Burlington or St. J or Montpelier? I said, well, why? Does it matter to you? Yeah, I'd like to work with Montpelier. You can then.
Yeah, I think, it is really, I think that was one of the really high points, I think, Aaron, was, because he asked, he was like, is this project because of Act 40, or Act 64? And we said, no, we gotta fix the drainage around it. He's like, really? So, I mean, he was surprised because Act 64 is new laws around stormwater drainage and how that is, handled in and around infrastructure. So the fact that we were thinking about this stuff before it was actually a deal was kind of cool. I actually thought the other thing that was kind of interesting when we did kind of a physical walk around to the property, he was really impressed with the open space that we have next to the building. He had some thoughts and ideas. He shared some ideas about some potential USDA grants to go off of if we're able to include, I think it was educational opportunity or things that could help with
Outdoor
education,
space.
outdoor space, cultural and historic significance. So I think, Mike, I know you and I had talked offline last year, I think at some point, about kind of the open space that is there with the old Silly property. And he said there is money there with the USDA if we focus it right around, things like culture, diversity, all of those things that are kind of the hot topics right now.
If we could get it, is he open for somebody reaching out to him?
He said he's a very busy guy, but he
I bet if
was
you reach out to him, if he doesn't have time to talk to you, probably
Yeah.
send you somewhere that somebody will.
Because there's different, I know Sarah's talking about programming, or thinking about programming, as part of the community garden. And, and I know with the Historical Society, there's conversations around ways that, that can extend across the community as well. And, I think there's, definitely, probably worth at least starting to explore some things. So,
Mike, I think between Lisa and I, we can probably give you his contact email to get a hold of him. And, he definitely said that there's money out there with the USDA for those type of open spaces to develop for community impact.
Excellent. Yeah. So if someone could send me his info.
Yep.
Thanks.
Anything else on the infrastructure project, Lisa?
No, I think that was what I wanted to say. Thank you.
Right. Any other inputs?
Sounds good.
All right, great. Okay, highway.
Got a couple quick things. Aaron, you might be able to help me with this, with any questions. The town of Facein is looking for permission to use our radio frequency on our two-way radios. Truth be known, they probably already are using it. But they're looking for permission to do it.
I'm assuming it doesn't.
Is that the
affect-
I don't hear them. We can't even talk from one side of town to the other.
So we had a guy show up to the fire department to talk radios the other day, and so he a couple weeks ago. So he gave us his spiel, and at the end of it, he said, "Well, can you guys help me out?" He said, "Because the town of Facein, their radio frequency is the same as the town of Groton's radio frequency, but they're unlicensed, I believe. So in order to get an FCC license, they have to reach out in a 100-mile radius to everybody who has that same operating frequency, and it's Vermont. Like Harold said, they can't talk to each other because of hills and dips, and so they wanted to know if that was something that
Sounds good to me.
we would sign, and I said, give it to the highway department.
So does it impact emergency services?
It's nothing with emergency services, it's just the highway department frequency.
Okay.
I'd love to talk to somebody else. Maybe I can talk to them. Can't talk to Philip.
Okay, yeah, so,
So you guys sign that. But
okay, perfect. That's
then
easy.
I'll bring it up. So I got the paperwork for the grant amendment.
Okay,
for Powder Spring Road.
Okay,
It needs to be signed.
okay.
They raised it up to 200,000 instead of 175.
shocker. That's gonna be an ongoing thing.
So,
Price and
Wait till
everything.
you buy fuel this winter.
I looked at my budget today. Not gonna buy fuel this winter. I'm gonna park.
that's, wait, I gotta check something here, don't I?
That's really,
You gotta write your name,
Oh,
print neatly, your title.
right.
Okay, that's here. There it says.
Oh, it says it there.
You gotta keep track of this, you need a little stamp.
All right,
Everything else is going good?
everything else good? Well, that's that one.
Seems to be.
And then,
I think that's it, yeah.
No washouts from all our big rain and all that?
Nothing major.
Good.
I mean, some little ones, but nothing.
Good.
You want me to give this?
Yeah, I mean, he's
Yep.
dealing with fire department,
Yep.
so.
Yep.
all right, and is there something else for highway that needed to be discussed? Something with culverts?
Well, I didn't know if Harold was done with what he wanted to discuss.
Yeah, I'm done with what I need.
Right? Planning? Yeah, no, highway culverts, Emily.
Oh, yes, so she does want to call in. But so, I'll just briefly say that when we were doing the VOREC grant, I have a number here, I don't know.
The phone's right here, we're just dial
Down
one.
9.
9? All right.
But this is on culvert?
Yeah, the culvert's on Little Ridley and the railroad bed down below Kingdom's.
Okay.
It's ringing. Hello, is this Emily?
Yes, this is Emily.
Hi, Emily. This is Zach, the chair of the select board meeting. We've got you on speakerphone for the meeting tonight.
Oh, great. Hi, everyone.
Hello.
Good to be there in person. Appreciate your time, for sure. So I don't know, did folks receive my packet, the information packet with the letter and all that stuff?
Yes, I believe we got that
Yep.
in our email.
Yep.
Okay, great, yeah. So I'll just do a quick summary. I'm Emily Finnegan. I'm the district manager for Caledonia County Conservation District. It's one of the roles that we play in sort of helping municipalities put together funding for stormwater projects and road projects and culvert replacements sometimes. And we work closely with other partners to sort of facilitate that. And there was a culvert identified through a partnership we have through U.S. Fish and Wildlife on Little Italy Road. So it's like two culverts right next to each other with a pool in between. And it was identified as the second culvert, the one under the CDT, was identified as a barrier to fish passage. And there is brook trout in that area. They electrofish sound brook trout. And then I also had someone from DEC come down there and check it out from a water quality standpoint, and he agreed that replacing those culverts or doing something there would definitely benefit the water quality of the area and the stream, what's called geomorphology, so the way the stream looks and moves and deposits sediment. So that pool in between those two culverts, that's likely caused by the orientation of the culverts and the size, and there's just some weird things going on there because of the way the culverts are set up.
Okay.
So that's sort of another pool of funding that would be available to scope that project. And so I guess what I'm asking for is if the town is interested in, because this is such a weird culvert situation, I think the next project step would be sort of a preliminary design, like an alternative analysis of some kind. You know, there's been the idea was floated of combining the crossings, and I know that's really complicated from a
All right, yeah, no, I think the three members of the select board are all three on board. Are both on board. All three of us are on board with that, and would like you to move forward with it. And then I would recommend that you work with Harold Hatch, who's our highway commissioner, who can help you with the kind of the local needs when it comes to the culverts themselves.
Okay, we'll sign it.
Apply for 30% size and we support that, as the town. So is there a particular person is there a good contact for me on the select board? Like, if someone wants to be
Send it my way.
Me and I can put it in folders.
Yeah. So I know you've got contact with Lisa Hart, our treasurer, and you can email.
No, she has mine.
Oh, no, sorry, Carrie.
Mine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Carrie. Yeah. So if you want to send the draft letter her way, we'll work to get it signed and get it back to you.
Okay, great. Okay, that's super helpful. Thanks for your time. I really appreciate it.
Yes, well,
thank you.
Thank you for thinking of us, Emily, and doing the legwork on getting the grant and stuff too.
Yeah. Do you guys have any other questions about the project? So we've got a lot on your plate tonight, but
We do.
I don't believe so.
I think we're good. Thank you very much, Emily, for your time.
Okay, great. Appreciate it. Have a good rest of your meeting.
Thanks. Bye.
Bye.
So
Okay.
you're good with that, Harold?
Okay.
Thank you.
Thanks, Harold.
Is this something you're all right with, Harold? Something you're
Sure, if the select board wants to do it, go ahead.
Yep.
Have fun.
We don't really know what we're doing. We're just looking by the sounds, just kind of researching it.
You know, them culverts have been underneath the railroad bed between 80 and 100 years.
Oh, yeah.
At least.
Yeah.
Aaron, is that?
There was never a problem before.
And I saw it finish all the way up that brook, all the way to my house.
Right, but I think it's worth looking into, right?
Oh, sure.
Well, it seems like they've
Right.
done some analysis, and there definitely is a environmental impact that they're seeing here.
Which I find this all interesting, because when like Irene comes and then everything floods and then everything's changed and whatever,
And then culverts weren't affected.
I don't think that this is, I think, just to move forward with exploring alternative
Options.
plans and options, so I don't know that it's necessarily to the point where we're gonna say they're gonna be replacing culverts, but, obviously, when you've
Move your
got folks from the
excavator down
state.
there.
Yeah, when the state conservation district comes to you and says there's something we need to work on, we'll explore it, and it sounds like it's gonna be at no cost to the town.
At this point.
At this point.
Yeah.
So when I approached them, we were looking for like organizations to support the VOREC grant, so like other organizations and ways to leverage the money from VOREC. So it's like if they had any needs, we could use that money as our match. Met with them and they were like that. They took me down there. The whole thing looked good to me. I mean, Puffer's driving by. I'm like, this looks perfectly fine. But then, we have the state there, some federal people, all these, and they were just really wanted to do something about that down there. And I said we wouldn't do anything unless it didn't cost anything. So that's why she called me like 2 weeks ago and asked me about this. And she said, I don't think it's going to cost anything. We'll get a design out of it, so if another ever does wash out, we have a design on the shelf for how to replace it or whatever.
So more to come on that, I guess. All right, yep, gonna move on to treasurer Lisa. What do you got for us tonight?
Budgets were all handed out in the departments, and we're at 33%. So you can review them if you have questions. Talk about it next time. VLCT insurance inspections were here. Larry came on April 26th to walk around through the buildings. So only a couple of findings. The assessor office didn't have an exit sign by her door, so I quickly made one that's up. So that's fixed. The gym lights headed when you're go in the gym, the exit light, the bulbs were blown out, so Tim Corey is, I guess they're pretty tricky to change, and Tim Corey's working on either replacing the bulbs or the fixture, because sometimes it's cheaper to buy a new fixture, so, and the fire station, the fire extinguishers, in the furnace room was not current, the annual inspection tag was from 2020.
In the fire station?
Yeah.
Was it inspected?
Wait a second, let me just, one more time.
Fire extinguisher annual inspection tag in the furnace room in the fire station was not
Okay.
current.
Okay.
Did it have a monthly inspection sign off on it?
I don't know about the fire station. I don't know if Frank does the fire station.
No, that,
Yeah.
yeah, so it turns out when the town pays the Vermont Fire Extinguisher to come around and check all the fire extinguishers, he
It's
doesn't
just
check the
funny,
ones that, he doesn't check that one. But
Yeah.
that was brought to our attention, and somebody drove it up to Montpelier to have them check it.
Do we have
So if you
mileage?
walk over now, you'll see there's a good tag
Didn't
on
they
it.
go to Reed's?
Yes, so Barry.
St. John's Road.
Yeah.
And then the fire exit, the fire station has an exit light that the bulbs are blown, just like in the gym. So, the fire chief did email me just this afternoon, said that both those items have been fixed. And so I'll email, Larry and let him know that all 4 things will have been addressed.
Okay.
And Aaron, my other thing was the state of Vermont closeout. You said that you believe you did it.
Yep.
So that's wonderful.
That's a lot shorter list than I used to see.
So there weren't nothing on highway?
No,
Yeah.
no, 4 things. So, Larry was very impressed with the whole building. He walked all around. You know, he's not been like the person since I got here that's always come. For different reason. He was more workman's comp, but now he's gone on to the passive side, and he's just impressed with the roofing,
Yeah.
the entranceway, the ramp out front, the railing, and,
He say anything about the exit from the backside of the gym?
no,
Interesting.
no,
Because the grade on that is not.
no, I know.
No,
And we talked about
Let's
that.
not.
We talked about that, but it will be fixed. Nate was talking about it with me just the other day and said that
You don't
we
bring
should
your
wait.
car somewhere and be like, oh, did you notice this?
Yeah.
Wait until this project is done, and then we'll put a bid out to get the concrete all done.
Yeah,
And that
yeah.
would be a landing and then down.
Yeah, yeah.
I think
To wrap it around to the front.
I'm thinking
Yeah.
from his perspective, having a marked exit with a ramp is ahead of.
Yeah. Right. So I guess that's it.
Good, thank you. Lisa.
Thank you, Lisa. Carrie?
We had the tabulator training last week in Montpelier. The new tabulators that all the towns are getting, the same one. Any town that had a tabulator is getting a new one, so they're all the same. So we had the training, with about, I don't know, 70 people over there in Montpelier. And then it happened to be, they called and delivered the tabulator on Wednesday. We had a hands-on training, going through the whole thing multiple times, make sure we were comfortable with it. So that's gonna be very nice. The screen is gonna have an actual screen for people to see that your ballot was cast, and tell you anything that you did wrong and let you can correct it. So that's, that big box out there at the corner is what it's.
Oh, cool.
The lid will come off, it sits on top there, and then the bottom holds all the ballots.
Good.
So I think that'll be nice, and we'll use it in August.
For the primaries.
Yeah, and then moving forward.
Okay, good.
And I also they had a NIMRIC training on the animal module, which NIMRIC is redoing all the modules that we use, and started with the animal one because it was the one that's kind of easiest, it's not linked to so many of the other ones. So all of the NIMRIC modules are going web-based, so they're no longer going to be how they're set up that we have it now on our computers. Technically, we will actually log in. Totally updated, totally new, and hopefully better, easier, flowing, but they're recommending we switch over to the new animal one, get used to that one, and then as they get each of the other ones done. And it's no cost, they switch over all the information, you still have all your information from the old module, so that'll be a big change coming in the next, they said it's probably still take within a year or more to get them all switched over, but they're
So,
starting.
what is that, so that's not on your computer anymore, that's in the cloud?
Yeah.
So, what do we do for backup, or?
I'm sure they'll back it the same way, like they back it up now.
They currently back up what's posted here locally already.
Yeah.
So I assume, I didn't know that was happening.
Yeah, we
Yeah,
just
we just found out.
yesterday, I think, day
Yeah.
before.
And how long before they do all the modules?
She said, I would say definitely not till next year, that we might see another one, but they wanted to start with the animal one.
And I'm assuming they have a pretty stout cybersecurity program.
Yeah, I mean, to have
Well,
95% of every, or if not 100% of every town
yeah.
in the state uses it.
I would hate for Moscow to hack us and then
Be more vulnerable.
be more
The thing
vulnerable.
is, it's not holding,
Yeah.
there's nothing they can get at it other than information. They can't get money or something.
Yeah.
They can go in and see our grant
Budget
list. and
lines, really,
go in
it's
and-
not,
Yeah. see the
that's
budget.
not account
They can-
information
They can
per
go
se.
set up an email on behalf of my dog. I mean,
That's right.
Or they can say, we're gonna shut you down, but you give us a lot of money.
Okay.
So, anyway, that's gonna be a big change coming and starting, like, you know, she said just to let them know if you're interested in doing it. She said you can stay with this one until you're forced to change, or you can start it now, change, and start getting used to it.
Yep.
So that's what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna call and have them just start switching it over now that dog stuff is settled down, and that's why they waited till now. You can have the rest of the year to get used to it before it kicks in full gear again. Few complaints, dogs as usual. Reached out to Michelle Boyer, so she's gonna check into a few. You know, she's in Orange, so it's not as quick and easy as it would
Yep.
be. Also had someone ask about, I know we talked on this a little bit, garbage down in the park. Wishing that we had some little cans for just the litter, just from kids, from whatever, you know, if they got no place to put their candy bar wrapper, then it's going on the ground.
Mhm.
She also asked about, and we've talked about this, the lights that don't work, don't come on.
Oh, in the park?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So she
Who
thought,
does our maintenance for that type of thing?
Town? Supposed to?
What town, like Harold Town?
No,
No.
our town.
Like,
Town property maintenance?
Yeah, I'm just saying.
you, we're
who-
pointing you.
Yeah, you have a big truck,
Who
right?
is appointed
Ben
to
does
that?
some of it because he mows and he
Yeah.
ends up
But we'd
picking
have to
up.
call an electrician or somebody that could get up to.
Well,
work
email
on-
helped Steve. Rec took it on years ago when we updated the park. And Steve took on getting, email, and I think even Washington Electric got a boom truck and changed something up there. I don't know if
Okay.
it was a bulb.
And I thought there
I
was a
don't know,
button.
It's supposed to be a
think,
button,
yeah,
but I don't think
yeah.
it works half the time. It's
I don't
supposed-
think people know where it is.
Yeah, it's very hard to find. I think we went down to try to find it.
And we're
Or
paying,
can it just come
we
on and-
pay for the electric down there, right?
Oh,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Why
That's
don't
my
we just
understanding.
buy some solar
Yeah, I know,
spotlights for down there?
Or one of
Post
those
there.
lights with the solar up right at top of the
Yeah.
light.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly, a solar post light.
Yeah.
Because those will manage themselves, and honestly, right now, that technology is really good, and then we
I'll
can,
put it high enough so they can't steal it.
Or shoot it, or throw things at it and bust
Just
it.
about some basketball up there.
we'll put an electric fence around it.
So she also just talked about, and I know we have these signs of picking up after your dog, so there's just a few different,
Some of those signs that, I don't know, do ours have where you can put like a thing for bags and stuff?
No.
We don't have any garbage
You
down.
gotta
Yeah, no,
have somebody
yeah.
collect it. I mean, that's.
yeah, that's the thing, is who's in charge of
I think, I don't know, how's the fence down there look right now?
the way
The
down?
white fence? Or the one
no,
down
the
by
one
the
way down
river?
by the river.
Oh, I don't know.
It'd be
See, the
another
problem is
thing
we
in
get
that
into
parcel.
like, you gotta have like somebody that's gonna do this on a regular basis and do all this stuff, and we're not really big enough and nobody's really.
Well, I know Ben, last spring, Ben did a lot of work down there to pull out, I mean, cause it was all overgrown and everything. And
It has been for years, yeah.
Yeah,
down
Ben
the
and
ground
Harold
and
and
grassed it
Philip
and everything.
dug it all up and so now you can see over the bank, it's not all grown up and Ben is trying to keep it down.
Yeah.
And then we got all those trees cut this fall,
So
this
now we
spring.
need a park committee.
Yeah,
Yeah.
We have a rec committee.
We have a recommend, yeah. Well, and I know the library, signing out basketballs to play basketball
oh,
down there,
that's
so.
fun, that's
It would
great.
be good to have it fixed up. so
No, I mean,
we can
that's,
do that.
so yes, that's, at that time I've been on, I'm sure Tristan was on before too, garbage cans down at the park, it's been brought up before, and we don't have anybody to grab them, but we also have Artisano right across the street, and Sarkey's right down the road, and a nice park with places to sit and eat. But once they eat, nobody's got a place to put anything,
Yeah.
you know,
Just like
so.
this, well, the state, when you go to the beach, you gotta bring your trash.
Yep.
Put food in, you bring your trash out.
Yep.
I mean,
Yep.
that's the way it is now.
I know.
But
I'd
we-
just be afraid if we started putting stuff in what we could
I know.
possibly get in there.
Oh, yeah,
and turn
yeah.
it.
Oh,
The only thing I think is
So-
something small, so kids can put their candy wrappers or soda cans or.
They got pockets, don't they?
They're not gonna do that. So maybe
What
nobody
happened
brings.
What happened to pockets?
Hands out, oh my god, it'd attract trash. Wait, out in the middle of the woods.
Yeah.
And it'd attract, everybody would empty out their sleds around that
Oh,
trash can.
that's-
Put them out and around that trash.
So maybe we should make a sign that says we recommend using your pocket for trash.
Well,
Carry in, carry out.
Gary, you say that, then I just took a ride down the railroad bed the other day, and there was trash all along there.
Yeah, there's
That's
a lot there now. Yeah.
beer cans and
I mean, I used to
all
have
kinds of
piles
stuff.
around the pond, and wherever I put the trash can, it'd be all around.
It's
Yeah.
true.
I just-
yeah.
I
So
think
don't know.
I think it's just dispersed down the trail now.
I
That's-
don't think you can.
But, I mean, I think it's, there's a lot of logistics that go into it, and, you know, the risk of things like, and I hate to say it, but in the world we live in, hypodermic needles and all that stuff down there too, but, you know, I think, whatever we can do to make the, you know, communities, the open community spots in town, you know, more accessible to folks, looking better so that, you know, people want to, you know, do good things there, like take their kids to the park to play,
Can
or,
Myers pick up there? I mean,
They're
maybe,
not gonna, well,
You'd
I
have to have
mean,
a can.
you'd have
if
to.
we put a can there. I
well, the
mean,
problem you run
Well, they
into
need
is,
everyone to bring their household trash right
Oh,
now.
yeah,
Yeah.
see, that's what we get into.
who,
I mean, if it's right there, right on the side of 302, you're less likely to get somebody to lug a microwave down.
I know somebody that.
You know,
No,
if you're
necessarily.
down by the basketball court, then you're more apt to have
I
somebody.
feel like unless it's not something we wanna get into.
No.
I think it's
I
think
opening up a whole
He
can
met
of
my
worms.
nephew, he carried a microwave.
The garbage down at
I think,
the
I think
cemetery.
maybe what it
Stuff
is,
you
That's
don't
why
look
we
down
get
there.
rid of the cans,
Yeah.
because
I don't know, Sarah might have some really good educational ideas, I think, around educating people on.
That's right, we should
leave
put
no,
up
leave no trace, and how people can protect the environment by properly disposing of your trash, and maybe something around sustainability down there that would make a lot of sense. So educate people about the problem and solutions rather than try to create more problems.
should put up signs that say, waste facilities and knowledge available at the library.
We have, we
pack
put
it,
in
you back
signs
it up.
that says, you know, please pick up after yourself, or whatever it says, but we don't have posts to put them on, we just have a
I
sign.
just think, you know, things like, you know, the US Forest and Park Service, you know, manages a program that they've managed for years called Leave No Trace, that I think would be not just there, but signs along the roadbed, signs out in the state forest, you know, those type of things to just remind people that, you know, we're sharing our environment with each other and with wildlife, and, you know, why should we not look after ourselves and stuff, so, just an idea.
Well, we can start with the signs and find a way to at least put those up. Get the lights working so people can
Yep,
see that you're putting trash
put it
down
back
there.
in the trash.
yep. Make it an inviting space for real stuff, so.
Maybe we should invest in like cameras so then we can see who leaves it.
And then write,
Well, that is a
kids can
problem.
write them letters.
I'll sell you
Fake ones,
the,
though.
I'll sell you
Yeah.
the camera.
We'll get,
Well, there's Wi-Fi now. We
Okay.
We got trail cams down there. All right.
So that's all I have.
That's all you have.
Thank
Great,
you.
thank you. Anything from Dorothy for tonight?
No.
Other than I knew that she wasn't gonna be here. so.
Right.
Okay. Fire and fast,
I don't believe I've got any updates.
fire extinguishers are taken care of.
Fire extinguishers. Yep.
Library, any updates from the library?
The librarian is here.
Then we got library trustees too, and a librarian.
Yeah.
Yeah, if there's anything going on in the library, I think we should know about it right now.
How is everything going at the library? How are you doing at the library?
I think okay. Things are moving forward. You know, we're sort of, I feel like I'm picking up steam, sort of moving along. I hope getting input from the community in terms of what types of programs and what the library means to the community. So I welcome everyone to come in and, you know, join. If you don't have a library card, you sign up for a card, and you know, I started up a newsletter. So if you haven't joined the mailing list, there is a sign up form on the website. Also, you could just come in, and I'm happy to help with that. And yeah, we have story time starting in June, which I'm very excited about. We have some of the friends of the library as well as other volunteers who are going to be doing special story times. So I'm definitely looking for community engagement in the library and supporting the library, and I'd be happy to see all of you come in and say hi.
okay, thank you.
Thanks, really appreciate it. Glad to have you on as the librarian. All right, zoning.
Zoning, there's
A new
two
zoning
papers
permit.
there on the new zoning permits. Carrie did wonders on that.
Gary, can you email the select board a copy of that?
There's a subdivision permit and also the new zoning permit. And you'll notice there's a change in the price as to offset the recording fees that we haven't been offsetting.
Okay.
When you get my bill this month, it's gonna be higher than normal because I've spent several hours working on the Fifield house. Hebel's attorney in regards to Kevin and Lisa Peralt zoning permit. And there was a camp sold that had a malfunctioning septic system. It was approved in 2008 to redo it to a Presby modified system. I'm dealing with the new owner, the old owner's attorney, and several other people from the state on that. And I think that's it.
All right, Dan,
Junk
so,
ordinance.
yep,
The planning commission does not want that in the zoning. They want a standalone ordinance. And the only way that we can do an ordinance is if you three are willing to back up the enforcement part of it when it comes time to.
Which we don't know how.
We
we're
won't know
going to
that until you
well,
get it done.
it's, the draft ordinance had that kind of laid out, fines, costs, liens, all of that.
Yep.
It's in that, but I think,
In the last 2 years, the environmental court has really jumped up and stepped up in the enforcement of these things through the towns.
Yeah.
I know that Concord's taken several people to court and they've won. There's also some incentives if the people take care of it, so I mean,
Okay.
but there are liens against the property and also can be put on for extra taxes.
Okay.
You might be subject to talk to Trevor Whipple about a constable, a civilian constable, and how that can be helpful.
Right.
yeah, I think, well, and I think the one thing with a junk ordinance, junk and trash ordinance is, just as we need to with the dog ordinance, we, the select board, need to be the adjudicators of the policy or the ordinance, but not the enforcer of the ordinance.
Right.
You know, we need to have someone assigned as the enforcement officer. I think that as we are thinking about a civilian constable with those type of powers, that they would be able to be the enforcer of the policy, as in that they could leave a letter at a residence that was in violation of the policy. And if that person appealed as part of that process, it would come to the select board to review, discuss, and vote as to whether we would uphold the enforcement or not. I mean, and I think that's how the dog ordinance is laid
Oh,
out.
you're the Board of Civil Authorities, so.
Correct,
you
yeah,
have-
correct. So, I think I've got it digitally. I'll try to send it to you if I remember. And you can kind of review the, I think just the basic one that we had.
The trash ordinance that's
Yeah,
been around for
yeah,
a
yeah.
long time. I think your
4
dad.
years.
How many?
4.
Yeah, I think your dad brought that.
I
Yeah.
brought it.
No, I think
Not
it
the
was,
one that came from St. John's Fair, it's a different
No,
one.
never.
So,
Oh, right.
so
Okay.
appreciate that, Dan. And so for the new permit applications, I think what
What do
the
you need
plan
for
is.
us?
Yeah, what do you need
We
for
would
us?
like to have you folks approve it, and so we can have it in place by June 1st.
Can it be June 2nd?
Yeah, it can be June 2nd.
Yeah. I think, yeah, it'd be more prudent for the select board to have more than
Yep.
the 5 minutes here to look it over. Like Carrie said, she'd email us a copy of it.
The other thing with the planning commission is that we worked very diligently, Mike's still here, on getting the bylaws upgraded. And we're about ready to present them, aren't we?
Well, yeah, we were going to present them, and then DEC came in on Tuesday night to talk about FEMA and flood
Well,
readiness, and they wanted to review them, so now they're with DEC, who's taking a look at them. But they're pretty close to starting the process of going through the full-on amendment, so.
Good. I got one question. What are the changes in this other than the money difference?
The changes are in the format,
Okay.
as a new subdivision permit, which is separate from the zoning permit.
Okay,
Also, on the zoning permit itself, there's the new laws governing the heat situation where the contractors have to provide us with paperwork that they've complied with all the
okay, so we
city
gotta kind
regulations.
of, I assume, look at the old and then compare it to the new, or we just?
Well, we have to put the new heat regulations in.
Right,
We're not in compliance right now. So, those have got to go in.
I can send you the old one too if you want.
well, I'm just trying to figure out what
Yeah.
I'm reviewing when
Yeah.
I'm reviewing it. I mean, if
The other thing,
I don't have anything to
spelled everything.
compare, it looks good to me, okay, fine, I'm just
well,
saying.
we took and put in there about class 4 roads too.
Okay.
That they may not be available for emergency services.
Oh, okay, yeah,
Because of condition of the road.
right, okay.
So, okay,
Sit on that.
all good?
Yep.
Okay, health officer, anything
Yeah,
that
we
you?
had, Carrie got a complaint on a horse. I went and investigated it second year in a row. The horse is 36 to 40 years old. It's fed 3 times a day, warm water and oats, because it can't,
Which we talked about this
you know,
time
we
was
talked
here when
about.
this,
And
so
so it's taken care of.
that's
Just
that.
wanted to make you aware of it.
Okay.
There's nothing wrong with the horse.
It's old.
Zach, I sent you something, did you get that?
No.
Oh, I guess I'll send it again.
Can you get his auto reply, he can get back to you?
I turned it off.
I was forced to turn it
You
off.
did finally turn it on? Yeah, I haven't got
Well, that's probably why I don't know if you got it.
Yeah, that's right.
Just a complaint
You should just
on,
make one that says, okay, thanks, got it.
I'm
No!
right on top of that.
it's an apartment that someone else in the apartment building is smoking marijuana a lot, and they're dealing with smelling it in their apartment, and
Okay. I'll take a look.
We
I didn't know you had
we
downstairs
police
neighbors.
those things?
I just passed it along to the health officer.
Zach's the health officer.
Right, but we still police those things?
No. It's legal
I'm
in Vermont.
State of Vermont, yeah.
Yeah, but I think there's restrictions on
Is it,
where and
who,
stuff.
is it,
The rural ed property?
is it a
No.
rural, no, is it a private owned property? Did they talk to their landlord?
Yes. I forwarded you her whole email, so you can.
I'll take a look at it.
You've got a long list, Zach.
Honestly,
We
with
probably should take next week.
with
off.
something like
That's not something you want to do.
no, I'm gonna be
No.
driving next week. I'll take a look at it. I mean, honestly, with.
I mean, she specifically asked for the health officer, so
Okay.
felt like
There you go.
felt I needed to send it to you.
Yeah, okay.
I mean, I can respond to her.
I'll review it, and if it's not in my purview, I can respond to her and just say this is not a municipal health officer issue. This is between a landlord and their tenant. I mean, state of Vermont.
It's a civil
Civil
issue,
thing.
not a municipal issue.
Correct. That's what I would say. So, all right, I'll take a look at it and follow up. Okay. Maintenance. I think we covered it.
I think we did.
Okay, good. Maintenance is good. IT.
Yeah, Dorothy had some broken parts on her copier.
Okay.
I found the parts and it didn't get work. I'll just say that. And replace those and get her up and going, so no cost to the town.
Cool.
Excellent. Thank you, Gary.
Awesome.
They're old parts, so they didn't cost anybody anything. So that's fixed. And Sarah, I've been helping her out at the library, getting some things that weren't working. And we've made some changes there. Getting a printer working again. Problem with the computer didn't want to go online. Then we just recently moved some copiers and printers around and made it so the public come in and scan their documents and right to a computer, put on their USB stick, and it's a service that they never had before.
Oh, great.
So
awesome.
I think that's going to help them out a lot. So
good.
She's coming up with a lot of new ideas. I'm coming in to help her out and not spending any money doing it.
Even better. Good. That's good. We don't have a budget anyway.
Thank you, Gary.
Thanks, Gary.
That's all I have.
Planning Commission. Anything else from the Planning Commission?
I think we just about covered it all. I think I was coming in to just give the update on the zoning bylaw, which is now with DEC, which wasn't supposed to go there, but it is there. We had talked about the junk and trash ordinance. That was, since I've joined the Planning Commission, it was kind of always a select board thing. And so then it was like, we're doing our zoning bylaws, and it was like, well, should we incorporate or not? We looked at other towns, and it seems like most towns have standalone ordinances. But our bylaws our zoning bylaws soon to go to the next couple steps, and we'll talk with the select board about that. There's a whole process about how that happens to go through. Then the other thing that we just found out the other day is that FEMA's updating all the flood maps in town, and we'll have to do another bylaw update to incorporate those maps, probably in 2026 or 2025 or something. And the flood protection people will probably want to talk to the select board at some point, maybe a year or a few months or something. They kind of just gave a little briefing to us and talked about, the importance of flood, river protection, riverbanks, and floodplains. And there are some advantages to having those protections in your bylaws, in that if an Irene happens, a hurricane happens, the percentage of state share for like disaster costs or disaster recovery increases, and so the town pays a much smaller percentage if we have all the protections in our bylaws in place and stuff. So we'll have that conversation when the time comes, but we'll take the timeline on that. It's like 3 or 4 years. And other than that, we have a great planning commission now. We're meeting regularly, great attendance, people are engaged, and things are good there. So,
good.
Yeah.
Excellent.
And it was the town plan that you're gonna get done 25, right?
The town plan is next on our docket. The first one is the zoning bylaws. The
Yeah.
town plan is good for is it 2, 3 or more years? I
Yeah,
think?
it's 2025.
And then the only other thing we have a problem with now is our emergency management.
Hazard mitigation.
Hazard. So someone's actually calling Frank in Alaska to get this thing.
Oh, good.
We had someone last night go, I don't know how to get in touch with Frank. And so we had the meetings at the fire station and here, and we were supposed to have a final plan, and then Frank from NVDA left NVDA and apparently took the plan with him.
To Alaska?
Yeah. I lived in Alaska, and they're trying to get it back now. they've been trying to shake us for
I
it.
reached out to Allison a couple times and
She reached out to me.
yeah,
And
can't find
I'm
it.
here to go to Alaska to get it
I'll go with you. Let me know when we're leaving.
on the town.
At no cost to the
No,
town?
no, on the town.
Gotcha.
We'll let you guys use the ton truck, but we're not gonna pay for the gas.
Or repairs.
Well, thanks for the update, Mike.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mike.
All right, I'm gonna go to open to the public and other business. I've got a little bit of other business here to kind of work through briefly. We'll do that later. So we received some correspondence. I forgot to put that on the agenda, but we'll do it under other business. We did receive some correspondence, and I'm gonna start with this one first. This is from Sally Blair. I'm writing on behalf of Mike Blair. Mike has mowed and maintained the Scott Monument in West Groton for decades. Although his heart is in it, he's unable to serve the town in this way, and he'll not be able to clean up litter and mowing around the monument moving forward. And that he enjoyed being able to consider this as service to personal community service. But would like us to figure out other arrangements to maintain the monument in West Groton. So,
I never knew we did that.
Yeah, I did. Yeah, Mike's been doing it for years, done
Yeah, we helped him
decades.
with the flags, you
Yeah.
know, replacing the flags.
Yeah.
Maybe we should send him a thank you card or something.
We should.
yep,
I do believe that we should send him a thank you card on behalf of the town of Groton.
okay.
At the bare minimum, and a phone call to Ben.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think the we should note in the minutes that, you know, Mike has done that for a long time
And thank him.
and to thank him for it. And
Yeah.
I think sending him a card also from the select board would, on behalf of the town of Groton, is in order.
Can we put that on Ben's? See if Ben can do that?
I think we can ask Ben if he can. Yeah.
See what that.
Yeah.
See what Ben says about it.
I don't think, yeah, I mean, he's not mowing anywhere close to it. You know what I mean?
Right.
So,
yeah.
who else we got? That's
Who
what we're
does the
paying.
cemetery out there?
The cemetery contract, mowing guys do. But they only do it twice a year,
Right.
so.
So I think it'd be
On
worth
Front
just.
Porch Forum, see if somebody wants to volunteer.
Is
to
this-
do it. Or on the Facebook.
You know what? It'd
Well,
be a good
also
job for a
one-
veteran.
I mean.
Deb said she wanted to find somebody
Well,
to take care of this
gonna
project?
actually ask
Put it on
Deb.
the Facebook, of the town Facebook
We-
page.
we
the
could,
town's
but I'm-
looking for someone.
I'm wondering too, is that something that the Historic Society would be interested in having as kind of a community service project?
Nope.
So how about we just,
We have Ben.
why don't we just get Ben?
Yeah.
Start.
But I mean, you
Yeah.
you
If Ben doesn't wanna do it, then we'll see
I'm
if
sure Grizzly
everybody else
can
will do it.
we're
It's not a
all,
matter
you know,
of whether Ben will do it, it'll be how much it's gonna be probably.
You know, this is all part of.
but you could ask.
I mean, that's,
You could put it out there and ask,
Yep.
you know, there may be somebody else out there that lives up there
So,
that
But
wants
maybe
to.
we start with kind of talking to Ben. I mean, do you wanna talk to Ben or somebody wanna talk to Ben?
I can reach out.
I don't see him that often.
I could talk to Ben.
Okay.
You see him?
Yep. And if Ben's not able to, then I think maybe we put it out there
Put it on
as.
Craigslist
I mean,
or something.
it's honestly something that the town has quote unquote underfunded.
Yeah.
You know, we've been getting free work and it was, you know, it was gonna come to a head at some
But
point.
there are people who like to do little jobs like that in
Right.
town.
Yep.
And, you know, it could be right up somebody's alley who lives in the area.
So we have this
Yeah,
really
maybe
awesome,
give it 2 weeks and try to see if we get.
we have this really awesome job and it doesn't pay anything and,
And it costs to mow, but
And I think you need to have geraniums, didn't they always?
Yeah,
a couple
red,
of them
red,
have geraniums?
you're killing me.
My job.
that's not gonna work.
All right, so I think that's, we can come follow back up on that next meeting and, I'll get a thank you card.
Is that state
I have-
land or is that town?
We have,
That's off 302.
It's off 302, but it's a Scott monument.
But.
So I think
the
But
state-
it's in the state right away.
Yeah, yeah.
Just,
Which means it's only gonna get mowed once a year. You know it, and I know it.
That, we have town stationary to send things.
Yeah.
It's slow in the summertime, you know.
Yeah.
they can't afford to drive the trucks up there.
All right, other business, received some correspondence, a letter from, Ellen Caddy, a Groton resident, I believe, as everyone in the select
I
board
did see that, yep.
you read it? Okay. I will start by just saying we'll acknowledge that we have received that correspondence and, have taken it under consideration. I think, is there any other comment that,
No, it's just the town taxpayer, voice on a select board meeting.
yep, just, yeah. Okay. All right, any other business open
I
to the
have a
business?
couple things.
Okay, go ahead.
The gazebo, Rural Edge is doing a neighborhood work week, and on June 10th, they're assuming that's the right date for them, but they're going to do a little luncheon in the gazebo. So they're gonna do some work around their properties, and it's all volunteer, and so they just wanted to kind of reserve it. I said, we really can't do that, but, you know, we put it on the calendar, and just,
Okay.
so. And also, the town banners, you know, that we put up.
On the poles.
What?
Yeah.
Yeah, so, you know, we had Ben work on them when he took them down to try to clean them. You can't get them clean. I was talking with the sales rep, and he sent us, back, they're gonna give us a credit for the cost of those and put it on this different fabric, and it's a different, more expensive fabric, and it will only cost the town $170.
Okay.
Where the banners cost $1,000. So they're giving us 1,013 credits. I thought that was good news.
Is this the second time they replaced
No,
them?
this is the fourth time.
Fourth time they
Yeah.
replaced them? Okay. Well, you know
Fourth
what?
time. They're a great company,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
they're.
You know what? They keep
Yeah,
replacing them.
he's a great
so,
guy, I can
yeah.
tell you.
It hasn't cost us.
We get new ones every year.
How are they still in business?
Yeah, how do they make any money?
I don't know, but he's a great guy. He asked if we were having, I asked what we could use to clean them. He goes, well, usually Dawn dish soap makes them clean, but are you having any problems? Well, we are having
Well,
problems.
sent a picture.
I sent a picture. He's like, oh my God, no, they should not. They should last 5 years, and these only last from May to October.
I was gonna say, they make
Each,
5
we are
months
very
big.
careful. We
Yeah.
only put them up. First was a fading issue, and now, so anyways, I guess we're gonna do it again, so.
Okay.
But we have to pay the 170, so, wait on that, we'll wait on that a little bit. And then I just wanted to update you on the town community yard sale. It's been posted everywhere and advertised, and I have a few people signed up for it, and,
Good.
and Salvation Army has offered to come and pick up anything that is left over with the, if there's anything left over, I'll be in touch with him. He'll pick it up that Tuesday morning, and so I would just like, if there's stuff left over, if I can put it under the ramp by the gym from Saturday afternoon to Tuesday morning. And there's no events in that.
Yeah, I was gonna say,
There's no
so there's
events,
no-
and,
Sounds good.
so,
That's great.
Good.
you know, hopefully more people will sign up.
If somebody wakes up Saturday morning and decides they want to set up a table, is that
That's
okay today?
Yeah,
So like maybe,
that's okay,
yeah.
yeah.
Okay.
I'd love to have little kids come.
Question in the back.
Gary,
It's possible that Matt Upper will start that work on Little Italy Road next week.
Okay, good.
good. Cool.
Doesn't have anybody to move the trees that they move up.
Here we go. The stump dump's right down the road.
No, you gotta say where the stump dump used to be.
Okay. Actually, I think Lise had her hand up first.
I did.
Lise, go ahead.
I'm just going to read something, and I would like this to become part of the minutes, please. I'd like to request on my behalf and that of the voters that at the informational meeting that's going to be held on May 23rd, that a complete breakdown of the total decrease in the proposed budget be announced, so that everyone has the same understanding. At the May 5th Select Board meeting, you adopted rules of procedure for the Select Board. Number 6 under public participation states, members of the body and members of the public are prohibited from making personal, disrespectful, impertinent, threatening, or profane remarks. The personnel policy of the town of Groton states, employees are prohibited from conducting oneself in any manner that is offensive, abusive, or contrary to reasonable community standards and expectations of public employees. The actions of Tristan and Zach at the last meeting were unacceptable and against the rules of procedure and personnel policy, and therefore should be formally disciplined.
What I'll say is we've received your statement. I can take it under consideration as the chair, however, because you've now filed a formal complaint against the chair of the select board and another select board member, I need to figure out what the due diligence is as far as what the next steps are. I'm not going to make any additional statements beyond that at this point.
Thank you.
Mike, go ahead.
Yeah, I just had a question on Zoom access. I think we had at one point talked about it, and there was a request to have somebody be a Zoom wrangler. Somebody who could run point on that. Is there still an option for introducing Zoom as an additional access point, a way for participation, especially for people that can't make it in here or are traveling? And if so, I'm just trying to think, I'm trying to be creative on my end to figure out ways of solving it. And so I've had conversations a little bit with BMU, just kind of exploring students or somebody who can run point. That may not be the answer, but before I go any further on that front, I just wanted to get a read as to how open you guys are. If we can create a solution that was
yeah, and I'm still in favor of the Zoom option. I mean, it gets more people involved, easier. We've discussed it before, Mike. So the technological, there's a financial commitment too.
Yeah.
But
I understand there's the tech in and getting the right equipment.
But I'm still interested in it. You can ask Zach and Tristan what they would.
I'm not a big fan of the Zoom thing, but it just complicates our meetings on top of our complicated meetings, and I feel like if you want to be here and be part of it, come be part of it. It's another whole thing. I don't know.
I think, I'm in favor of any way that we can increase access to our meetings for sure. I think that, there's obviously some infrastructure that we're going to need to purchase. And that's the one piece that we kind of have to figure out. And then, like you said, it's kind of in the meeting logistics. I think, one, we've adopted some meeting rules that at this point can help with how we manage how Zoom can work. But I think it's really going to require someone to help kind of be that point person at the meeting to help manage. Because frankly, I'm having a hard time just taking notes and when I'm here as it is.
Yeah, I think the intent would find a way that has minimal impact on your ability to run a meeting. And somebody who could sit on the sidelines and interject when somebody's raised their hand, okay? And you guys aren't looking at messages or anything like that. You're not. It's somebody else is being that person, so that they're essentially in the room. And I think it's, you know, I'd like to be involved, and I'm sure others that would like to be involved that aren't physically gonna be able to make it into this building because maybe I'm 3,000 miles away, right? But yet still wanna carve out time to participate because maybe there's schedules and maybe there's timelines around things that kind of dictate that. So why don't I do this, if you guys are open to it, I'll come back with just a proposal that will deal with the tax stuff, okay? And we'll deal with how do we manage this so that it does not impact you.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, again, I'm open to that. I think, Mike, that would be great. I think the biggest thing is just making sure that we're able to, you know, have the meeting that we're having and be able to. I guess what I'll say is what I don't want to have happen is we have that be a barrier to making that work the right way, and also just, I think, being able to moderate it so that it doesn't have a negative impact. Because what I also don't want is somebody that logs in and has frustration because it's not working properly or they're not able to connect. Because by state law and open meeting laws, they have to be able to participate and interact with the folks physically.
I mean, it will always be a problem if they don't have good internet.
True.
Okay? It will be a problem. But phone can be a backup as well. So, I mean, if they don't have a phone and they have bad internet, it gets hard.
If you had Emily participate today, this person named Emily?
Yeah,
was her
on the
name?
phone.
You know,
That's
pretty
once.
basic stuff, but,
Once in a blue moon.
right, but, you know.
And I think, you know, people, especially if we have people from the state that need to talk about different things, and I can see that it could be helpful. I mean,
FaceTime.
honestly, I don't know. I know, Deb, you talked with Trevor, but, you know, Trevor Whipple probably could have zoomed in tonight, and we wouldn't have to wait till June 2nd. You know, I don't know his schedule really.
No,
And
wasn't
who
that-
knows, maybe,
Yeah.
you know,
It
maybe.
wasn't that, actually.
Well, it may
was
not be
just- there was
here,
so much
but
going
there's
on.
going to be 20 cases where that is the case.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, I think of the NEK Broadband director, who would have zoomed in here multiple times.
Yep. So, Mike, yeah, if you're willing to help pull something together that we can look at and try to, you know, try to get the infrastructure that we need to do it, and then, you know, have a way for us to do it successfully, I'd, you know, happy to.
I just didn't want
entertain
to,
it.
I didn't want to push on it if it was not of interest, so.
Yeah.
Why don't, give me a month or so and let me see what I can.
Just like we told Emily, if you want to do the legwork and it doesn't cost us any money, go for it, man. the planning process of it, yeah.
Okay.
There she is on that phone.
All right, I appreciate it, Mike. Peter, did you have something for?
Yeah, easy one for you. We're very close to being able to come back to the select board on the approach for the kitchen. And what we'd like to do is meet with a member of the board to flesh it out so when we come in it's seamless, smooth, and prepared appropriately for you to review succinctly. So if you could give me a name of a person that would be a good contact, we'll work with you and then come in and meet with you.
I'll work with you, Peter.
Okay? Appreciate it.
Thanks, Tristan.
That'd be great. Thank you.
Anything else for open to the public and other business?
Just the agenda for Monday's meeting.
And for everyone to come vote on Wednesday.
Informational meeting is Monday.
We don't need an agenda, right? We just,
Well-
it's an informational meeting, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, we just,
Well, you know what I mean.
we need to
Yeah.
review it and prepare for it, yeah.
The agenda's on the warning, so you can.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
All right, what are the hours on Monday?
10
Or
to
Wednesday,
7.
Wednesday.
Wednesday, 10
10
to
to 7.
7. Yeah.
Got it.
So do we need to,
So, next is set agenda for select board meeting for June 2nd. I think, I'm gonna take the, instead of Railroad Street, I think what I heard pretty clear is that we need to, add the trash and junk ordinance to the agenda.
Yeah.
So, I'll get that.
Trevor Whipple on there.
Trevor Whipple on there.
So you might wanna, yeah, I imagine Trevor Whipple might be a half hour, 45-minute conversation. I mean, we were 20 minutes without somebody who knows what they're talking about today. So I'm not planning on doing anything too heavy on the agenda.
Well, we've also gone over a lot of that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Coming out, well, you know, to talk about the civilian,
No problem.
That's, I guess,
if that
what,
person gets paid, what that person can do, where the policy comes from.
I guess that's what would be more, what we
We're talking a lot
would
about
be aiming
speed.
towards is a civilian
Yes, I believe so.
constable.
Yeah.
So,
Usually they're
that'll be part of that conversation with them.
the hourly employees for most of these towns,
Oh, is that right? Because, yeah, I don't know.
because there's no set hours for them. They're
Who would
at
wanna
the
do
whim
the,
of that.
who would wanna do the job unless you're gonna make money when
Well, they're
you do
at the
something?
discretion of the select board.
But you shouldn't project that. That's what you think. You don't know. There may be somebody out there that wants to do that, just like the mowing. Get out of your own box and see if you get proven right.
Well,
Maybe
I'm just
not.
looking at the world, we can't even get people to work in general, so.
All right, so that's the agenda. It'll be just those two things. Probably, we'll have results from the budget by then, so we'll need to talk about that.
Right. We didn't,
And then orders, yeah, you guys will start.
Shining orders. Thank you.
All right, yeah, so I'm gonna move to adjourn the meeting, as of 8:20.
Second.
All those in favor?
all right.
Aye. Thank you, everybody, for coming tonight.